they ended it with him just, saying, "Oh, that's interesting," but I'm looking at it going, "Yeah, you're probably gonna go to it. I can almost guarantee."
Mm.
So, so I think that'll be interesting. So it's like it's not we're not really staying in one area or one place. He's just it's like he's building the framework and the groundwork for the reasons why he's going to have money to be able to spend to be able to do other things.
Okay.
So,
Cool, cool. All right. Well, more slime. Or
indeed.
yes. All right. Um, should we save the best for last, or should we go ahead and pull the thorn out?
That's up to you, my man. That's up to you. I know we're gonna have a lot to say, or I'm gonna have a lot to say about it. So,
um, let's go ahead and pull the thorn out right away.
all right.
Trigun Stampede.
Yeah. All right. Before I get into it, let's hear what you have to say about it.
So,
What's your
I
What's your thoughts?
I'm giving up on the whole camera thing. I'll just sit back. Um, so my thoughts on it are this should be in the Trigun universe with other characters.
Explain.
So, trying to think back to what Trigun was, I don't remember. I remember beats here and there. I did see the Badlands Rumble. I think it was an exclusive at Anime Fest. That
Mhm.
it was like, I guess, the U.S. release.
You
I don't
can
know.
you can find it though to watch now. It's like
Yes,
on even on YouTube you can watch it.
yeah. So it was like an important release that happened in, I guess, in the U.S. I don't know if it was like the first showing in the U.S. or something like that. So like right when the movie came out, like I was there and watched the whole thing. It was really really cool. Even in the last episode, when we were talking about it, when I like watched um, bits of the first episode, like it has a whole different feel.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember like all of the ins and outs of the story. I did remember what's his name actually? Millions Knives.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, because
His brother.
I feel like they're pronouncing it like weirdly,
I
and
do
it's
think they are. I do think they are. I don't think honestly. I think the original name. I think what is something different. It feels like, but
yeah. So I'm like, and he kept saying it over and over. It's like millions knives, and I'm like, stop saying that name. I know. So, and then the beginning, like, start out in space, and I was like, oh wait, did I click on the wrong show? So I feel like I don't know. It's like, is it trying to be a prequel and then also retcon the whole show? I'm like, I do like the feel of the show. There are some moments during the fighting where I was like, that was actually cool. I'm like, good job. Like, a tiny little win for CG. I'm like, good job. Um, but it's just, and like, ever since we pointed out the jacket, like, I can't. It, it just, it just looks like he's wearing like a big rubber cone or something. It just doesn't work.
hmm.
Um, other than like small little technical things that I'm like that I just see because I do 3D animation or did. Um, other than that, I feel like I would love the show if it was different characters but in the same universe.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what? In that regards, I can agree with you. In that regards, I can agree with you. But the honest truth of that would be you'd have to almost completely retcon Vash out of it then.
Yeah.
Like not it's like you would be in the same universe, but you wouldn't even have Vash as even a person to like you'd maybe hear about him, but you would never see him.
Yeah. Like either like do a Lion King 1.5 where you're like adjacent to the original series and like
Mm-hmm.
you get cameos from some of the characters, or let Vash and the whole incidents and everything be a complete legend. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's been so far because of the whole space thing. I'm like, this seems like it's farther in the future than
So okay, let's let's start
yeah.
let's start where okay. So I guess let me how do you want me to do this? Do you want me to say my feelings on it as standalone by itself if I weren't considering the original source material, or should I consider it adjacent to the source material?
I would say I would say as a like do a standalone first because like you said, this is some people's first Trigun.
Okay. By itself, without comparing it to the original source material. And when I say the original source material, I'm not just saying the original animation. I'm including the manga as the original source material. Okay. So let's just start from there. I have a problem with Vash and the way he's portrayed. And I will say this as far as it goes, Vash, the way they portray him in this animation is that he is a lone gunman with a troubled past. And instead of being something that we all know of before, with even talking about it, it okay, trying to no stop, trying to get away from that. Okay, being a lone gunman with a troubled past is it's been done. It's cliche. It's like I see where they're trying to go with him in regards to like it seems like instead of and they're trying to be like this comedic moments that happen with him. They're like, oh, it's his way of trying to cover up from just being depressed or being lonely or being sad about the trouble that he's had in his past. Like I see that. I don't think it's done very well. I
I just
just
feel
don't
sad.
I don't feel like it's done very well. The comedic moments that come about because of that feel off, and it doesn't feel genuine most of the time. It feels like he's just kind of being goofy to be goofy, and I'm just like it feels weird to me because of that. Um Putting the storyline as seeing everything from space first, I feel like is putting the cart before the horse, because it puts okay, one thing I freaking hated about the second episode was we almost had a recap of the first episode in the first 5 minutes of the second episode. And at first I thought, am I watching the first episode? And I was like, no, this is the second episode. But we want to spend the first 5 minutes going over the first episode, because even if this was going off of like the freaking way they're releasing it, it was a week ago, and we all know people's memories is shit from another week ago. So we're just gonna go and rehash the whole thing again all over again. And I'm like,
Last time on Trigun
yeah,
Stampede.
essentially that's what it was. It's what it felt like. I'm like, why are we doing this? I mean, people get upset about recaps from like 6 episodes. Why are we doing this after the first episode? No, wrong. Um, so there's that. Um, I hate the character of Millie. or Meryl. I'm sorry, not Millie. Meryl. Meryl. I hate the character Meryl because she seems like a ditzy. Just she's single. She's a single note character because she's just like, I gotta get the story. I gotta get the story. I gotta get the story. Get the story. Get the story. I don't care what happens. I gotta get the story. I will do everything and everything in my power to do whatever I have to do to get the story. I gotta get the story. And I'm like, good lord, lady, have something else in your freaking repertoire that you can do or say or something. It's just, it never seems like it goes any further than that.
I've seen that character done well, and what they need, like the things that this character is missing is one, we need a little bit of her backstory up front,
Correct?
like seeing her, because basically the character that I'm comparing her to is the one of the characters from Planet ES, and it was somebody who was straight out of college, like
Mm-hmm.
this is their first job out of college, and they are applying everything that they've learned over the last 4 years to what's happening right now, and then you're there with a veteran that's kind of like, don't worry about that, don't worry about this, and like,
And see, here's the thing that really strikes me, right? In this world is like the most unhospitable, dangerous, like you could get shot, stabbed, freaking freaking it's a desert, so like you could dehydrate, you could, like, you have environmental things to worry about, you have people to worry about. I mean, it's almost a lawless situation.
Mad Max.
Essentially, yes. Her character doesn't fit that. I feel like if this was her character would have been dead. Like, if she were like that same character coming out of college, she'd have been dead 2 months out of college. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
like,
because even the whole water
how
scene.
are you surviving? Like, the very first thing they introduce her, she forgets to fill the tank of gas. How do you forget that? That should be numero uno in your freaking mind. But because they're like, we have to have her so obsessed with getting the story, she has to get the story. She thinks of nothing else but getting the story. What the frick?
That's one thing that I've seen with a couple characters this season, where they're they're one note, but the note's kind of off. Like,
Yeah.
I like if she is that diligent about getting the story, she should have all her like all her all her T's crossed and
Oh
I's
yeah.
dotted,
No, she
like a
should be
hundred
like,
percent.
she should be a super straight shot shooter kind of thing. She should be like, you know, she should have plans for other plans and backup plans for those plans,
Yeah,
because she's always going to have some way that she's going to get that story.
and then she should be so out of her element that she doesn't like that she can't, like she'll need help in Mad Max. Like
Yeah.
that should be the thing. Like forgetting simple things like that, I'm like, that completely discounts like
No.
how adamant she is about the story.
No,
I
that
was
that
like,
that yeah, that completely throws her character into like limbo essentially, which is probably why I hate her character so much. And then her veteran character that's with her just seems to be essentially along for the ride. Like, he's letting, even though he's the veteran, he's letting her take shotgun front and center. She calls the shots. Why is she calling the shots? He should be calling the shots. He's the veteran. Why isn't
yeah,
why isn't he calling the shots? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's that. Um I feel like, okay, so let me just see here for a quick sec. Let me just see for a quick sec. Um do we know how many episodes they're going to come out with this? Have they
mm,
said already or no?
I want to say 13,
Okay.
but
Because it feels like that's what they're going for. Like, it feels like the pacing is rushed. Like, we're rushing everything.
yeah,
We're
like,
not allowing for the characters to breathe. We're not allowing for the story to breathe. It's just we're rushing everything. And we're trying to condense what normally would have been probably 2 seasons, like it would be today, to one season instead. Like
Yeah,
I feel like if this was a 24 episode like series, or if they knew we were doing two seasons of this, I feel like it would we'd breathe more with this. The storyline would make more sense because right now, the fact that they're throwing everything that they're doing at you as much as they are, as an audience, and not knowing the background for all these things and what's going on makes no sense whatsoever.
yeah.
Like they
The
haven't explained the plants. They haven't explained how he knows anything about the plants. The whole thing about why he was in space to begin with has not been explained. Like all of these things should be like at this point, because we've seen them all, we as the audience should have a deeper understanding of them all. But we don't. We're left in
yeah,
limbo wondering what the hell's going on. Why does why was Vash in space? Why okay, here's the other thing. Why was Vash in space? Why was his brother sitting on top of their escape rocket laughing as like what looked like meteor storms was happening above him? What was that about? Where did that come from? How did that happen? Where did that happen? And then the time skip that they had from the time that they were kids to now all of a sudden he's a lone gunman wanted is
being
just
framed.
crazy. Well, now he's saying he's being framed, but we have no sort of like baseline to know whether or not that's true or not, other than the fact that he had a brother that we know of. And why did his brother all of a sudden go crazy that he looked like, what was the deal with that? You know? And it's bad enough that we're being thrown into this Mad Max world where we're just having to accept certain things, but if we're trying to follow people around, we should have a better understanding of their reasonings, why they're there, what's going on, so that way we're not having to grab not only what the world they're living is like, but also where the characters' motivations and what everything else is happening is. So to me, this is just a jumbled mess.
Yeah. So
So
I
I
got
would I would say that this is the equivalent. Do you remember? It was a long time ago. I think back when I think that was it the heyday of like the PS4. I think there was a game that came out that was a single player game that was gorgeous looking, absolutely gorgeous looking. People bought it the minute it came out, and then freaking hated it because it lasted 2 hours. It was a
uh,
game that lasted 2 hours. Looked gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous looking, but it was like 2 hours long, and that became something of like the benchmark of saying we don't want just good looking, we want content, we want more in depth, we want more game time, we want this. And to me, this is like somebody going, hey, people love Trigun. Like even me, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, Trigun, fuck yeah, I'm putting it on my list, no question, not even looking at anything. I'm just putting it on my list." And then they're like, "But we're not going to put all the effort of making sure like we can jive with this and things make sense and all this, that, and the other thing. We're just gonna throw whatever we have out there and pseudo do stuff with it."
there's a reason why so many of Madhouse's IPs are beloved, and there's a reason why they don't follow up on it because they go really hard
I
into
feel
everything.
like it could be followed up on. Like
Yeah,
this has legitimate, and don't get me wrong, if they're trying to like retcon or reboot the series, go for it. I'm all for it. But there are certain things that need to remain as they were. If you want to retell it in a specific manner or a specific way, go for it. But don't change the key elements that made what it was what it was.
Trigun had the benefit of coming out in the 90s when 26 episodes was the norm. So you had time to elaborate and
You know
expand.
what? If that was the case, though, I almost feel like just bring out a core. Make this core one.
Yeah.
Make
Like,
this core one so that way you have 12, 13 episodes to play with, and then say, hey, we can work on core two if it does well enough. Because I guarantee you, it would be doing better than what it currently is.
yeah, spend some time on the spaceship. Let us get to know Rem. I don't like that her name's Rem, but let us get to know her. Let us get to see the either the change in knives or from the get go we're like, oh, something's up with him. Let us like see um, the reporter
Meryl,
girl. Yeah,
Meryl.
Meryl. Let us see Meryl like leave college and then come like let's find out why both of them two detectives are together or reporters are together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a little bit of story on like the plants. Is once you get to the same like the stuff that they're rehashing from the original, then it's like yeah, you can go ahead and like maybe speed up or maybe just hit the beats really quick because we already know that stuff. But for the parts that you're changing, you need to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Like, like
So now do you want me to get into what I feel like is totally different from what the original one went through? Because here's the thing, right? I went into the first episode going, you know what? I can't just dog on the fact that it's CGI. I have to give it at least a fair shot because, like you said, it is such a beloved IP. Like, I can't just be like, oh, it's CGI, it's garbage. No, no, no. I have to at least go, let's see, what do they do with it? What are they trying? What do they have and everything? And I watched it and then I just went, what the fuck? And I immediately went, you know what? Let me see. Let me compare and contrast because I feel like I do kind of know what it's like, but it's been a long time. Let me go back and I just watched the first episode of this. Let me go back and watch the first episode of that. And let me compare and contrast. Where are we at? What are we doing? How do things differ? What's the feel like? And I'm going to tell you, oh my god, freaking night and day, freaking night and day. And I'll start with saying I'm very upset by the fact that in the original, he was a man with 60 billion double dollars on his head. I didn't know what double dollars meant when I first saw it,
yeah.
but now they're like, oh, he's got a $6 million bounty on his head. Why do we have so less?
I do see the double dollar signs in the new one, so I'm like,
But
they just don't say
it's
it.
6 million. It's six
Yeah,
million, not 6 billion.
yeah.
Why did you change that? What the deal? What the hell? What was the deal with that? Right? Second note, Meryl, so much better. So much better. And she was the veteran in the original, and she had a partner, Millie, who was this big, tall lady.
Yeah, okay.
Completely different. And they weren't they weren't journalists. They were insurance people.
That's that's right.
The reason they were going after Vash was because he was a giant insurance liability. And they were going to put him under 24-hour observation to make sure he didn't make their prices go skyrocketing. It's a ridiculous plot point, but it still made sense.
I was like, that sounds fun.
See what I mean? See what I mean? I'm like, it still made sense in a fucked up weird way because we're in this Mad Max world. Why wouldn't there be an insurance company that's going like, we'll insure you, but we're not going to insure you against Vash because that dude's an act of God at this point, you know? And like the whole space thing never came about.
I was
We never went
wondering,
into
was it like
space.
something that happened at the end? Because I
You
haven't seen the
didn't
last two episodes.
learn about that until closer to the end.
Yeah. Why? So
So
when
they
when
made
did
the
the trend
conscious
happen?
decision to go first episode, right out the gate, we're in space.
What like when did this trend happen to where it's like, oh, let's tease the end? Because before everything was just like a slow burn, and then all of a
I
sudden
don't
there's a
think
big
that they're
reveal.
doing. I don't think that that's what they're doing. I think they're just going, it would make more sense to have the space thing up front instead of trying to tease it at the end.
Because people may not stick around.
Or it's more enticing. I don't know. But it's like the world itself, the world of Trigun is so it is so enticing. It is so interesting. It is so varied. The characters in there, the civilization, how things are run, it is so different. I don't think you need to have that in the beginning. Like you didn't even know he could fuck with you didn't even know Vash could do anything with the plants until like way later. That
Yeah.
wasn't his prerogative. That wasn't what he did. And Vash, oh my God, Vash. Most of the time when things happened around him or like he was able to get out of trouble, you just thought of it as blind luck, like just dumb luck. You didn't think he was skillful. There were some like little tidbits here and there where you're just like, wait, where you stand back and go, is he skillful? Can he do that sort of thing? Is that just or does he is that just dumb luck? It wasn't until later on in the series you're like, oh, okay, he is that skillful. Because I will tell you, I remember, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember halfway through the original series, there's a moment where Vash goes serious. And you want to know where it you do you remember, oh God, like I recall this one thing, it is more recently, is like when Superman was facing Darkseid at one point, and he got to a point where he started like beating him, and he started a monologue where he's like, all my life I've had to walk around in a world where everything was made of paper, and I had to subdue my strength because of that. But he's like, but I think you're a big boy, I think you can handle it. And you're like, oh, Superman, just that's what I felt like with Vash.
Hmm.
This entire time you're with him, you're like, oh, he's just a goofball, he's just a nut, Yeah, he's got some maybe some little skills here and there that he can do things, nothing major. Then just like there's a moment where Knives, I don't think it was called Knives Million. I just remember I think Knives sounds right, but
Yeah.
like where Knives does something and it triggers something where someone comes and does something to him, and it's just like the look of him just goes completely sideways, and you're just like, oh shit, you pissed him off. You legitimately pissed him off, and he's about to fuck you up. And I think like he stops just short, and you're just like, oh, that could have been death. That was death coming for you. It's like Saitama in when he was facing Genos,
Hmm.
where you're just like Saitama comes in, like where Genos is like, I want you to fight me seriously, and then because he was goofing off the entire time at the beginning of the fight, and all of a sudden the last like 10 seconds is when all of a sudden like he comes in front of him, Genos tries to kick him, and all of a sudden he's behind him, about to punch him, and all Genos sees is just death coming at him, and then just shops just short of his face, and just the air current just blows around him or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're just like, then the mountain behind him is just gone. I'm like, that to me is the feeling you got with Vash at that point. But right now, if he were to do something like that, I would not get the same effect. I would not get the same feeling.
Yeah. because it's like it's the show's in a weird spot because it's far enough away that I don't remember a lot of it.
Which is
But
why I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna see what I can see. And then I was like, but let me go back to the original. Let me go see what the original
yeah,
was like. And I almost want to read the manga now completely too, because I'm like the manga. I'm like, where are you diverging from the original source material? Because here's the thing: if I look at the cast of this one, Millie isn't there,
yeah,
but she was in the original anime, and she shows up in the manga too. And here's the other thing about that: Millie was a love interest to Wolfwood.
yeah.
Wolfwood's in this one. He's in Stampede. What's that going to play out like?
Hmm.
And they haven't shown it yet. They haven't shown it yet. Like, okay, Meryl. Meryl as a character, right? She was very much more the leader. She was very much more as I got a plan. I got this covered. We can do this. We can survive. We'll do things. And here's the thing. Meryl by like episode 3 or 4, her cloak that she wore, I don't think she's wearing it in this one, but her cloak that she always wore in the original is lined with derringers, little derringer pistols. So when she has to defend herself, she can defend herself. Like she legit can actually take care of business if she needs to. I don't get that from this Meryl. She's a damsel in distress. And
Yeah,
Mindy carried around this big gun with her that was like looked like a Gatling gun that she
yeah,
kept on a holster on a leather strap on in her thing because the very first episode they go into a bar and they order some ridiculous drinks and everyone's like you can't order that here because they like ordered milk and Ceylon tea or something like that and as someone was trying to give him shit for it, her strap broke, hit the table in front of her that the guy was leaning over, and it knocked the table up and knocked him out completely cold, you know. And in the very first episode, they teased the fact that Meryl has derringers in her and are lining her cloak on her because they get in trouble and they're tied up and one of the dude that was about to do whatever to them before Vash intervened, he lifted partly up her cloak and he kind of paused for a second, like he was about to say something, and then Vash intervened. So, like, they tease the fact that she has something and can do something, but, I don't know. It's just, ugh. I feel like character wise, it fails on so many levels. Storyline wise, it's failing on so many levels. Like you said, if you wanted to take the world of Trigun and be like, hey, there's this other character and this other thing going on, you could do that because the world itself is so interesting. Like there are so many things going on that you could do that. But by doing what they've done, and essentially, in my mind, like just neutering and lobotomizing so many of these characters and so many of these plot points that came about or whatever, it just doesn't feel right.
you could even like use the same villains and stuff.
Yeah, because we don't see the villains all the time.
Yeah, and it's like they fought against Vash once, but it's like we,
Yeah,
it,
each time each one of them fought against Vash, it was pretty much, you know, came to a conclusion not long after that.
yeah, and it's like, what if we came across them before they like the new
Yeah,
characters came across them before they came across Vash? Because after you
just
come across
barely
Vash, you
managed
may not be in the same shape.
and just barely managed to escape with their lives, because they're that badass or what. It's I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I applaud them for trying, but I think they fell short on so many avenues that they really shouldn't have. If what they were going for is what they were going for. It's a train wreck. It's literally a train wreck. Some people may have different opinions on that, and I mean, if you have never seen the original and you like this one, hey, more power to you. But I can tell you, if you can get by the older animation style that the original one was in, watch the original. You will be so much happier with it.
Yeah, I would. That would be very interesting to see like someone from a completely different generation. Like this will be their Trigun, and then we
Mm,
like watch each other's and like compare and contrast.
hmm
Because it's like you said, the whole animation style. I don't
Yeah,
think that that becomes a thing for me until like the 80s, maybe like early anime where I'm like, it looks like Ashita no Joe original or something like that.
hmm
Where it
like the
like,
the original Trigun is on Crunchyroll. Like it is available to watch on Crunchyroll.
mm,
Um, Trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how. Okay, okay. Second episode, they have the brothers, right? Those guys don't show up till episode 13 on the original.
oh
Like, and okay, so here's the other thing too. Um, Knives has a group, and I'm curious to know whether or not in this one they're even gonna have that. You know what I mean?
yeah, there's some stuff from Trigun that's kind of like bleeding into Cowboy Bebop, and I'm trying to like not mix them together because a lot of stuff that what was his name? And the silver haired dude in Cowboy Bebop. I feel like some of the stuff he did, I'm
Mm.
putting on Knives, and I'm like, I just don't remember what all Knives did.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, but I know for a fact that Knives had a group that he was with, and I just feel like this one, yeah. I'm just kind of scrolling through right now just to see. Like they kind of made the same thing with the so I'm just like looking at the brothers. So like their fight was kind of very similar, but he was not on like a high plateau or whatever, and he tried to punch like a group of the townspeople, and he ends up deflecting it. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he took him out. Like he didn't want to. He kept trying to do different ways, but he essentially, like, he's one of those, like, it's like um Equalizer. Like the dude there, like the character they made on that one was like he always tries to have everyone do the right thing and not be so evil, or even with Knives Group, I think he still did that too. But if he has to finally do something to stop it, he will do something to stop it.
Yeah.
He always tries not to, but he will do something to stop
Oh, so I so the one bullet thing that happened in the first episode.
it. Mm,
Um, I don't
I,
know how I feel about how he portrayed that emergency because it's like I feel like the original Vash. I don't like with the new Vash. I was genuinely worried because I'm like I don't trust him. I'm like I don't feel confident around you, sir.
mhm.
And then like a bunch of people had to like chip in,
Yeah,
and I'm like that drama wise, good job because I wasn't sure what was gonna happen.
yeah,
Like the old Vash, I'm like, how would that have? Like, I don't feel like they would have drawn it out as long, or if it was a genuine emergency, like I don't know. I just don't know how the original Vash would have handled that situation,
Mm-hmm.
or if I would have felt as like these people are incompetent. Like,
You know, it's funny too. I'm just kind of skipping around on this the original one a little bit, and Knives actually doesn't even make an appearance until episode 12. Like you don't even know about him, I think, until then.
yeah, a lot of the anime like back in those days, like the middle of the series was when things started to get serious.
You know, it's funny too. They weren't kids in the original one, and when they were in space, they were actually young adults, but they were still adults.
Mm-hmm. Whenever they do
Um,
remakes, they tend to age down the characters because they did that in Yozaki no Quartet, and they've done it in a few other series.
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I found it. I know this is the moment. What was it? Did he do it to protect Meryl? Is that what happened? Because it never really came about, but I feel like him and Meryl kind of had a thing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
See, there it is. Okay, this is funny. Like he's running away. He's running away from one of of Knives' guys, right? And let me see if this makes you think that the other one could have done the same thing, right? He's running away from one of Knives' guys, and while he's running, he comes across an old man who's like confused because he turns a corner and there's an old man there and whatever, and he's like he tells what does he say? Hold on, I just rewound it. He tells him, "Oh, there's an old man with a cane." He goes, "Sorry, Grandpa." Picks him up and throws him through a window into a house onto a couch to get him out of the way so he won't get shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else like opens another window further down. There's a shutter, and he goes, "No peeking," and shoves him back in, just as the dude's firing, and both the window
Okay.
things explode. So it's like, can you think that this new Vash would do something like that?
Not
Like,
in the same way.
yeah, it's the ridiculousness. Okay, yeah, this is where he goes. He goes. So the dude that had been chasing him, literally, he was trying to avoid as many casualties as he possibly could. And the dude who had been chasing him literally just massacred a nice big portion of this town. Like just blew it up. Like even the people who were like inside buildings taking cover just blew it up. And that's when Vash snaps. He had been trying so hard to minimize any casualties, no deaths, but still handle this guy. And he felt responsible because of the fact that he didn't handle him sooner and avoid this. He could have, but he always doesn't want to kill anyone. He's so adamant about not killing anyone. Like it's funny, like you think about like Batman as a superhero who's like, I don't kill anyone, I don't want to kill anyone. But like I think the character of Vash took it like to an even higher level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with Batman, he like plots it to where they won't even be in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like he thinks that far ahead, or he would like. everybody would be like evacuated already when things
Mhm.
go down. Yeah, but yeah, it's
Oh my God. I wish I could just show you this moment. I do. The guy's like, it's like I'm having a nightmare looking at Vash the way he is when he finally just, yeah, it's like looking into the eyes of Diablo. And then the guy starts running. You're like, oh, you're not getting away. No, you're not getting away. Oh, dude. Yeah, there's so much more depth to his character in the original one. There's so much more feeling. You really the situations he gets put in all the time and the fact that people try to kill him all the time. You're like, no other way would there be somebody who wouldn't just snap and take and just kill people. He never tries to kill people. Some people die around him, but he always tries to help people.
yeah.
And it boggles me so much that yeah, I'm just yeah. I don't feel like they're doing it justice. I feel like they're really and again, points to them. Maybe it is because oh, and I forgot the fact that his metal arm is actually a gun.
I don't like the new metal arm.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
And it's like, and they're like, oh, he can do the plants. And I'm like, oh, so it's just a piece of plant stuck to his arm.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah, no.
and it came apart.
In the original, it was a gun.
Yeah. And I'm like,
In
as
the
soon as we
original,
see
it
the
was a
arm,
gun.
it like comes apart. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Just the sheer grit and the emotion of it. And again, this is also where I feel like, and when I said something about Berserk, like I'm looking at the animation, and yes, it is old, it is dated animation, sure. But the animation they did back in the day, I think, is one of the ones where if you have a pure adrenaline moment where there's something like deep grit, like down and dirty, like he right now, Vash, I just paused it, is holding that arm gun that he has. He literally beat the other dude down and is holding it up to his eye. The barrel is up to his eye, and you just see, and his other eye is bloodshot. You see the creases of just anger and pain on the dude's face that he's about to be killed. And then the look of Vash is so detailed and gritty. Like you can't get that sort of detail with CGI. I'm sorry, you can't. We're not there yet. That detail of like the consternation of someone's face when they're just like freaking, bald mad, like the wrinkles, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel natural with CGI. But sometimes you need those shadows, those wrinkles in someone's face to understand like the deep-seated emotions that they have. And I feel like this is one of those animes that's there. Like the same when I said before about Berserk. Berserk had those moments. It had those like where the protagonist is just dark, shadow cast upon him, and you just see like half his face, and the intimidation factor alone is what drove a lot of that where like you see his face and you're just like if you know like I said I put myself in those animes I literally will be like if I was one of those soldiers in that anime looking at this guy holding a giant sword who had just literally slaughtered literally 2, 3 dozen men. And yeah, he's bloody, but he's looking like death freaking warmed over, where he's about to like, I wouldn't want to mess with him. I'd be one of them going, hell no, let's leave. Can we leave? I don't want to fuck with him. Like looking at Vash right now, I'm like, if I were to turn the corner, seeing him there with a gun, you know, what's the thing about a gun? You don't have to be close, right? You don't have to be close. You can shoot someone from a far distance. He has a guy on the ground laying on his back with a gun on his eyeball. And the look on his face is just sheer death. And I'm like, if I'd have turned the corner and looked at that, I'd be like, I'm turning around, going the fuck away. I don't feel like this other one can do that. I don't feel like it has it in it to do that. I don't know. That's all I would say about the animation and that. Other than that, the characters, the storyline, the pacing, it's all off. None of it is where it needs to be. None of it is where it should be. It from every from from a writer's aspect, from it all just feels off. So
Yeah, for me, um, I there's certain things that don't look right, like like both of the jackets. Like when he was playing the organ, and like it just looked like this big nasty worm just jiggling all over the.
you know what? In the original, I can say his coat. The best comparison I can say of what his coat looked like was something similar to Spawn's cape, where it was just impossibly long. It always seemed to billow in the wind, and it seemed like the way it was put together, you're like, that can't be like a whole like jacket. That's like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
it kind of like curved in an impossible direction where you're just like, there are some impossibilities with that. But the one he has now in this one looks closer to like Full Metal Alchemist, Edward.
yes,
That's what it looks
yes.
like.
Now that you say that, all I can see is I like to
He's
see is
he,
him.
and he's blonde too, so he's just freaking
Yes.
Ed, and he has a metal arm. He's Edward from Full Metal Alchemist.
So
We've
you're in the
cracked
wrong
it.
show.
You're in the wrong show, dude. Go to the other show. He's Edward with a gun. Lord. Oh, geez. Is that where they took the inspiration from? They're like, you know what? We know how to make him more likable. We're turning him into Edward from Full Metal Alchemist, but with a gun.
Yeah, I was also thinking about the the cape, like Spawn's cape, like you mentioned, because the only way to like get it to work is like photorealistic and like lots and lots of time,
Yeah.
because yeah, it's
Well, and the thing is that in the original, it always made it look like okay, we kept saying it's Mad Max, this whole world. Yes, it is very Mad Max-ish, but it also is very Old West.
mhm.
And they really played upon that, and I think that was like the way his coat always moved and the way it looked. It was always billowing in the wind, and like you would see him from a distance, and there would always be like the way it like billowed out kind of situation where it's like, and every time I saw him from a distance coming into some place where someone would see him, I'd almost, from the original, I'd almost hear the spur sounds in my head of him like walking like he was actually in an old west. You know what I mean? That's the way it made it feel.
Yeah,
The fact that he's got a gun on his hip, he's got the billowing thing, and I mean, I'm like, dude, he's fucking like, might as well be Clint Eastwood essentially. I mean, the way it made it seem like. So
so Yeah. Trigun Stampede.
I'm sorry, everyone. If you enjoy this one, hey, enjoy it to your heart's content and everything. But I see so many holes in what it could have been and what it should have been, and it just doesn't feel right. So,
Yeah. It's like
and that's
I'm
not
trying.
coming from me, just from being CGI. Yes, I have gripes about the CGI. I don't think it should have been because I don't think this one does CGI justice. But from every other aspect of it, from characters, plot point, story driven, just like everything just feels like it's falling short.
I would say, well, I'm curious. Like, is it point to CGI for you being able to get through 2 episodes, or is it because of the IP?
It's from the IP.
Okay.
I forced myself to be able to watch this. I forced myself because I said to myself, I said when the first episode released on Crunchyroll and I saw it came out and I was looking at it and I'm like, I my initial in reaction to it was nope, skip. And then afterwards I looked at it and went, you know what? I can't just skip it because I know it's going to be such a talked about thing. I'm like, I feel like I at least have to do it and see what it is they're doing with it. I can't just skip it out of hat because it's Trigun. I have to be able to watch it. So yes, it's literally because of the IP, the freaking CGI. I could just, yes. Is it better than what they did with their bastardization of Berserk? Yes. Is it what it? Does it make me feel okay with watching it? Hell no. I'm sorry. It's just there's look, thinking about that too, it really got into my head that, the one I always keep comparing it to, which is the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I feel like because that came from a video game where the characters are smooth and they're not as like realistically defined or have some of those characteristics where, shadows interplay with stuff like that. I feel like I could look beyond that in the CGI, so it was more acceptable to me in that regards. But in everything else, I feel like if you're trying to get me to watch something animation wise that's CGI, it's going to almost always fall flat. The only thing I can think of that ever might come close to me being acceptable would be something that's futuristic.
You seen the recent Guilty Gear games?
No,
Um, I'm curious if you like. I don't know. They're probably having like all specials, Guilty Gear, whatever number it is.
probably.
Um, I feel like if they use that engine to do like a whole anime series, I'm curious like how that would go. Cause I'm like,
Because it's like I will say another anime series that I know was CGI and I was able to accept from a long time ago was, I don't know if you remember, Appleseed.
yeah, I
I
don't think
accepted
I
that.
watched off of it, but yeah.
I accepted it. But why did I accept it? Because it dealt with androids, robots. It was futuristic. Like
Ah,
things were shiny. I expected them to be shiny. And in my mind, it made sense the fact that they were more shiny than what I would normally expect from animation because they're robotic. It's futuristic. I get it. But if you're trying to do something essentially that is a Mad Max slash Western or something like medieval, like Berserk, shiny doesn't work. Shiny just makes it seem weird, which is the same reason why I have an issue with Overlord. All the CGI they keep now throwing in there, and every single freaking episode, it's like they go normal CGI, and it's so jarring to see that it smacks you in the face and takes you out of whatever experience that you're having.
makes sense.
So yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
friends on CGI.
So, all right, go ahead and pull that thorn out.
Now,
Eh,
now, everything else that we talk about is going to take like the entirety of what we just talked about for Trigun, or mostly I talked about, I guess, is now going to be about the same we do for everything else in total.
yes.
Oh, good lord.
All right. So, the first, well, second, next show we're going to be talking about is Giant Beast of Ours, or Ours and Kyunju.
Okay. So this one was mine. Did you
I
watch
watched,
any of this one?
yes, watched the first
What
episode.
What did you think?
I shotgunned like 8 shows at once. What was this one again? 'Cause I know.
So I found this to be interesting.
Mm,
Um, so the initial, this is almost like I feel like someone's having a go at like, um, I guess a monster version of Attack on Titan kind of situation here.
mhm.
Because you have like these giant beasts and whatnot that are like attacking cities, and there are these groups of people, like there are people who are just rogue like hunters, I guess, in a sense, that try to go out and manage them. And then there's actually like a literal someone, people who have been given like special powers and abilities that are meant specifically to go after these things.
Yeah, the Paladins.
Yeah, and I feel like it's interesting. Like I've kind of said I've only watched the first episode on this. I've meant to catch up on it sooner, but I've had other things going on. But yeah, I feel like they have a girl who is essentially the partner, I guess, to this guy who, I mean, yes, the guy I don't I've only seen the first episode, so I can't necessarily say too much about the guy's character. But he definitely does come off as like, I had something happen in my past, and now I'm essentially just drinking to forget. And I only do this hunting gig to gain money so I can keep drinking when I need to. That's kind of where I see him at as far as that goes. And I guess because there are these people who have had um, these abilities put upon them from making pacts with, I guess, it's still a little vague on certain points on that, but they make packs and be able to fight because of it. It seems like somebody was trying to man make something in that regards that would allow them to
The,
do that,
the
which is
crystal
where
candies.
the girl comes into play. I think she was
Oh,
a man-made version of whatever allows these paladins to gain their abilities. I don't think she was legitimately a natural
yeah.
version of it. I think she was a man-made version of it, which is why they were chasing her in the beginning, trying to get her back,
Mm.
because she's something that, technically speaking, shouldn't exist.
So, did all of those types of people like die out, or was there like some kind of
I
disaster?
think there's still some about. I think the characters that we see in the in the actual picture you have there, there's a few characters that you see in there. It kind of shows it a little better on any chart for the characters. There's like a bunny girl and then another guy with a green and yellow paladin looking jerkin shirt or whatever. I think they also probably are as well.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's probably like they're few and farther in between than what they once were. And I think the government probably has more of a hold on them for something like that. It seems like they're sanctioned more than anything else, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Um.
he's just kind of the lone one where it's like he is someone who can use those abilities. He's had something happen in his past where I think maybe his previous thing he made a pact with, person he made a pact with, died, and now he's reluctant to go down that path again.
Yeah. Unless the time calls for it, which it did at the end of the episode.
Which, yeah, I did at the end of the episode. Well, it seemed like she needed to, because otherwise she was going to essentially self-destruct.
Yes.
Like she got pushed to a certain extent where if she didn't, she was going to bad things were going to happen.
Yeah, oh my god. And it's like, man, people back in the day were dumb. Like, they're like, monster, shoot it. And they're like, monster's catching on fire. Shoot it some more.
Yeah,
Not thinking that what they're doing is causing the problem.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So
they're
I'm
making it
I'm
worse.
I feel like this is pretty good. I feel like it's maybe not like A tier, but it's definitely, if not a low A, maybe a high B tier situation going on here as
Yeah,
far as an anime goes.
yeah. I like the sense of power that they give some of the characters because she was like really strong, but not like ridiculous, where she's like breaking things and everything. Like,
And I like the world that they've set up so far. Like there's enough intrigue as far as like what's going on, as far
mhm.
as like the plot point, but also the characters, because there's that girl, the cat girl,
Yes,
and she looks like she's going to be another like at least sub character, if nothing else.
and she's so sneaky.
And I love her character. I think
Yeah,
her character's great. I want to see more of it. I want to see
yeah,
what she does. I want to see how that plays out. And then I'm curious because like you see her, and then there's also a bunny girl at some point, and I'm like, okay, so we have anthropomorphic like characters. I'm like, where did that come about? How did that happen? Where, like,
yeah.
I like. There's definitely lore bits in this world that I'm curious to see what direction they go in with.
I like the personality that they give even like non-important characters, like that lady that she
Mhm.
like the girl ran into her and knocked out all her
Oh, yeah,
flowers.
yeah.
And then she was like, will this cover it? And it's like this stack of gold coins. She's like, oh no, honey.
Yeah.
Here, let me just give me one.
I loved her character.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that is such a sweet young old woman. I would be like, no, you know what? You can at least keep one or one or two, just
Yeah.
because you're so nice.
Yeah.
And even the main character, like the guy, like I liked how he was introduced. He was literally on his boat drinking,
Yeah.
and then she showed up. And like normally someone would have been, in a protagonist situation would have been like, I should probably go chasing after her. He looked at her and went, I'm not bothering with that. That's too much drama for me right now. And he went back to drinking. And I'm like, you know what? That's kind of a realistic like viewpoint on that. He's like, no, there's some shit going on there. I'm not even fucking with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um,
and he literally did not get involved until she was like at critical.
yeah. And
Like he
also
didn't
like
want to get out. Like, and even the thing with when he went out hunting is like, yeah, he was. You could tell he was doing it, but he was only doing it because he needed to do it, not because he wanted to do it.
yeah. I love the personality of like almost all the characters because like
Mhm.
you like so even when the like henchmen were like chasing after the girl, like even they had personality and they
Yeah,
weren't like the stormtroopers just going off. They were like
yeah,
diligently trying to find her, and I'm
yeah,
like, they might actually find her. I'm like, oh my god,
yeah.
I'm a little worried.
Well, and even her, like even the girl, I'm like, she's endearing.
Yeah,
She's like you get from the get go, like she has the ability to some degree protect herself for sure. But
yes,
even then, you kind of it kind of tugged the way that she was being chased and everything. I almost was like, from the get go, I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting for her, and I almost feel like I'd want to protect her too. I'd be like, hey, you guys, fuck off. No. You know what I mean?
yeah. And this like the beginning when she like kicked down the door and ran off.
Yeah.
I got like Elvin Lead like vibes for like a
Mhm.
second. I was like, oh no, what's it gonna? I was like, wait a minute.
But then she
Uh,
just, but then the next thing you know, she's eating, and I'm like, well, why didn't you give her some food? All
yeah,
she wanted was some food.
and then I'm like, somebody's fired.
Yeah.
like somebody like dropped the ball for like a split second and she is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I'm gonna catch back up on this one. I think this is good. Is a good one.
Yeah.
Plot wise, I'm intrigued. Character wise, I definitely think they've done a decent job and really giving everyone proper motivation and giving them their own unique personalities for the most part. And then pacing wise, I think I only watched the first episode, so I can't say for sure, but I think we're pretty decent on the pacing. Like
Oh
things
yeah.
are happening, but it doesn't feel like
Oh yeah.
we're rushed with it. It feels natural.
Yeah, it's properly paced.
Hmm.
Like you get a little peek of like the hero character, and he's like, at this moment I'm not involved. And then like you see him a couple scenes later, and then you're like, okay, now he's the hero at the end of the episode. I'm like, that's proper
Yeah.
pacing for that. Um, One thing, like whenever they're like, what name do you want to be called? And he's like, already dead. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'm like, cool. He like has no hope.
Yeah.
and and like even the other people who were like gonna be like signing up with him, like even they had some character that was interesting.
Hmm.
They're all like, you could tell that they're all like,
The one that he saved and everything, being the fleet-footed or like quick or something like that. I don't remember, but something dealing with being fast or something like that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They all like gave him a new nickname. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And like you can tell that like all those people who were there have like gone to the other battles too, because everybody seemed
Yeah.
like friendly with each other. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm like, y'all know you're gonna fight a monster, but it kind of seems fun. Like,
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, because the way they acted, it made it seem more normal.
yeah,
Like this thing that's like weird to us is normal to them because that's their life. That's their everyday. This is just what happens. Even the fact that the thing came and was busting down the walls to the city, like people were evacuating. Like it felt like it was like an earthquake or a tornado was happening or like, some natural disaster was coming and everyone's just like, "Oh, we just got to evacuate. We just need to get out of the area." Like it just seemed normal. People weren't necessarily like, yeah, they were panicking, but they were not. It wasn't like, "Oh my god, we're gonna die." People are just sitting there staring at the thing. No, they're like, "Get the fuck out of here.
like, hey, it's the monster again. We gotta go.
We gotta go, man. We gotta go."
Yeah, and then also unusual things about this world. Is this the show that had the big fly things, or is that different? I think it's a different show.
Yeah, yeah.
Snow apples, like all the apples that we have, they're like honeysuckle and red delicious and other kinds. I'm like, they're all just red apples. They're just like breeded differently and stuff like that. And she's
Mhm.
like, snow apple that's white, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to eat that. But oh, you don't want this apple? How about this red banana? And I'm like, I'm not hungry. Like,
But like even like her character, right? Like we knew from the beginning, like she has power, but the fact that her character was shown that she didn't understand money, we're like, okay, so you don't understand the way the world is. You don't understand things about the world because you've probably never been in it. So you're like, she evaded the soldiers, but you're like, she's not going to evade them forever because you're like, she doesn't know enough about the world. Because someone who knew about the world, if they were running from soldiers like that, they'd have been like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
yeah,
I need to just go. I need to just get gone.
like,
Her, she was like, I'm gonna do some sightseeing and I'm gonna look around and I'm gonna look at things and I'm looking at it going, you're gonna get caught. But it
yeah.
made sense in the context of it what it was. Like they already established her character being the way it was, and the fact that she evaded the soldiers was almost by pure chance and accident. Because she did bump into that woman, and then the woman took it upon her to go, come back with me, we're gonna get you situated.
Oh, and then like the disguise that always works is just a hat,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they're gonna. this isn't gonna work. And they're like, where
Yeah.
is she? I'm like, it's working. And then a gust of wind blows her hat off, and they're like, there she is. And I'm like, guys.
I mean, we have to do at least something in that regards, I suppose. But
And then I'm like, go find your hat and just put your hat back on, and then you'll be gone again.
Superman, it. Come on, you got it.
But
So, anyways,
yeah, yeah, this show is great. I cannot wait to get to some more of it.
yeah, I don't like I said, I don't think I consider it like high A tier, but it's at least a low A, high B for sure.
Alright, so the next show we're going to be talking about is Handyman Saito in Another World.
Oh, this one.
Disappointing.
It is such a mid tier fantasy. Just, I thought there would be more to it, perchance. I thought there would be like something interesting that occurs with it. Like, yeah, he's a handyman who has the skills that he had when he was over in our world, brought to the other world. But I thought like maybe, I don't know, he would have something like maybe being in this world like magically enhanced his capabilities as a handyman, and like he's now just like, I don't know, can do even greater feats of handymanism from whatever reason or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, he's literally just a handyman who got isekai here for some reason, not even sure how that happened. And he has his tools and he just does handyman things here. And I'm like, how is this working? Like, you're facing orcs and goblins and slimes and golems and people with magic, and you have nothing. You're not even like warrior trained. Like, how is this working? But for some reason, it is. Um, but I guess my biggest gripe with it, honestly, even not that was excluding, is the fact that it's it's not episodic.
Okay.
Like, we're not going from like episode to episode. Each episode has little tidbits, little tidbits, little tidbits, little tidbits. Like, I feel like we're just like each episode is almost like four mini episodes inside of it, where
Oh.
like nothing necessarily cohesive is happening. We're just always on adventures. We're
Oh.
just perpetually on adventures, and he's doing his thing. You know, he's picking locks, he's helping with armor, he's, doing just little leather work thing. Like, he does little odds and ends. And I'm like, okay, you've nailed the handyman aspect of this. Like, he is such a handyman. I get it. But like that's it. And I'm like, can we can we continue? Is there like a
It's like,
progression?
where's the overarching plot?
Where, yeah, I'm like, how is this? All right. Like, I've learned more about his companions than I have about him.
Okay.
And I'm like, cool. Don't get me wrong. I love the characterization that we have here. Like, we have a wizard who's so old, he's forgetting his spells.
Oh.
Yeah, like he's so old, he's forgetting his spells. He's super forgetful. And I'm like, to ridiculous stance. He's so old, like he forgets which party he's in. He forgets who he's with. And then he'll start chanting a spell and then forgets the rest of the spell. So our handyman Saito here is like, I can remember your spells, but because he's still human, he doesn't have any magic. So like he can remember the incantations. He doesn't do anything with the incantations though. But
You're
he'll
like,
let it,
heal us. You're like, okay, hold on.
yeah. Well, no, his is more attack damage, like
Wow,
spell casting. So they
good.
have a mage they have a mage who forgets his spells. They have a female warrior in full night gear who gets very bashful around Saito. Like she very much doesn't want. She has womanly charm, but she tries to hide it behind all the armor. And then we have a fairy healer who requires compensation anytime she heals somebody. Yeah, money. Like all the time. Like the old man, like his back will give out on him constantly, and he'll be like, "Heal my back," and she's like, "Pay me first." Which I mean is funny, is interesting, but I'm like after episode one, I was like, "All right, I think we've got it covered. I'm cool with everyone. Can we like, where's the plot points? Where are we going with this?" And they're just like, "Plot points? What's that? We're just watching them kill monsters and get treasure." And I'm like, really? Like, is that it? What are we doing?
Like, yeah, don't you think it's funny that she asks for money every time somebody gets
Yeah,
healed?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I thought it was in the first episode.
Yeah. I'm feeling like this is um what is that one campfire one that you had?
Oh, you do can.
Yeah, I feel like this is Judo Camp in another world. So I'm very mid about this. Nothing really striking me out as like, oh hey, look at that. I'm like, they introduced a shopkeep character, and I've only seen her twice, and she's had like maybe 2 lines the entire time. But apparently he's gone to the shopkeep frequently because he helps her with taking care of some of the armor and equipment and some of the gear that she has to use in order to make weapons and armor and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that seems pinnacle. That seems like he'd be here and maybe he has some sort of relationship. And for the most part, it seems like that might be the case, but we have no idea about her character. So I'm like,
So they're like telling, not showing.
yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. What else are we doing? I don't know. It's very laid back. I think the only plot as far as character development the main character has is that he does the jobs that he does. He picks their locks, he helps them out with it, and he gets his party will thank him for his what he does. And then he gets all like, I've never been thanked before for doing something like that. And then it shows his old life where he was just a handyman and people would expect him to do things like he would somebody lock their keys in their house or whatever and couldn't get into their house. So he comes there, easily unlocks it because it's not the greatest to lock anyways. And then he tries to have her pay for the service, and she gets all flabbergasted saying, You barely were here for a minute and you want me to pay that much? And it's like, yeah, ma'am, you have to pay for their drive time going out. I'm like, why are we involving like I appreciate the normalcy and some aspects for my anime, but you're starting to go too normal now.
Yeah.
I watch anime to escape, not to be reminded of this is real life again. What the hell?
Like, I wanted to go to another world. I didn't want to sit at your job.
Basically, basically, like what the hell? So, anyways, yeah, that's where that is.
Alright. The next show we're going to talk about is Buddy Daddies.
What the hell happened in this one?
Oh, I love this show. So, the blonde guy? Yes. The blonde guy is like what's the name? Playboy, I guess. Like a lot of
Yeah.
ladies. And then the other guy is a hikikimori, a shut-in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're roommates and they are spies and they go on all these dangerous missions and for some reason like during their missions they're using silencers because make a bunch of noise. But when they're like everybody's shooting and everybody's like pew 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 pew, I'm like, oh, these cute little weapon sounds. And then like somebody's like bah bah and like blood spurting out, they hit the ground. I'm like, oh, that sound doesn't match what just happened. So um it's a little bit of like a mismatch
Mm-hmm.
as far as like the gunshots and stuff. Um, because I'm trying to think, like, do spies have like flat out gun battles like that? I would think like a gangster movie would have
I
like just.
mean, I think like when that something like that occurs, that's usually because a mission's failed and they're left with no other choice but to fight their way out of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I mean, when you think of a spy, you normally think of like espionage. You think of covert operative missions where it's like, like Spy Family, where it's
Yeah,
like he's disguised and you never knew he was there, or you don't even know what he looks like because he's disguised himself so perfectly that it's just a matter of like the only person who sees him is either dead or been captured, basically.
didn't didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
Okay, so that does make sense. Um, so yeah, they each person has their own like ways to approach things. Like the blonde guy is more of the mastermind, and then the other guy is like the muscle, and he's like just mission, 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 so I can get back home and play some games. And um, he also
That
wants.
that seems very diverge from what they look like. On all honesty,
Yeah,
like the blonde doesn't look like he has a thought in his freaking head. Like he looks like he would be the one to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this, but if it doesn't work, I'm not gonna plan for anything else. I'm just gonna be guns blazing coming out of it." And the other dude looks like he's like so by the book, like you wouldn't think he wouldn't know about video games only because he's so uptight. Like that
yeah.
that stick is shoved so far up his butt, like he wouldn't know what else to do.
He's like, all I do is
Taking
train.
time off, yeah, all he knows is training, all he knows is the mission. Taking time off and doing anything else would seem like foreign to him.
Yeah, and it's weird because like he does like it's weird. He's like when I'm on the clock, he's like like serious, but he's like he can't wait to clock out, so he can just go and play some games and stuff.
Interesting.
Um, he really wants a pet because the blind guy keeps saying, "Would you quit picking up strays and bringing them home?" Um, and there
See,
was a,
I mean, I guess maybe they're subverting tropes or whatnot because to me, it would seem like he would be the one who is all about the mission, never anything about the mission, and then like when you're not looking at him or no one's paying attention to him, he's the one who will see a cat on the corner and all of a sudden be like playing with it or petting it or whatever. But the minute someone pays attention to him, he immediately turns around and is like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't doing anything. Get away
yeah,
from me! Get away from me, cat! I don't know, you're bothering me." So the one who likes the cute things, but never shows it for anybody.
yeah. And like this cat was kind of like cute in a weird way,
Oh
like
God.
like it was just drawn kind of funky, but it was like, oh, it's like, like
Like
not like the.
the cat in Trigun, where the head's too big and the eyes kind of bulge out a little bit.
It's like a off design kind of like yeah, not as like exaggerated, like doesn't fit the anime at all kind of like style, but like you're like what a cute little homely cat. Like you're like good cat, yeah. It's like man, you're like yes, uh huh. um,
So instead of a cat, they end up picking up a little girl.
so what ends up happening is like he puts like the blind kid like he takes the cat and puts it in a box and like hey, please take care of his cat and all that kind of stuff and then he like leaves and I guess starts setting up for the mission. I can't remember. And then he remembers the cat because he doesn't want to just abandon the cat. So he comes back with cat food and like somebody already took the cat, but he just leaves the cat food in the box. And that's the NDC of the cat. But they start prepping for the mission. The guy he gets in serious mode and starts like cleaning out all the guns and like setting up all the stuff that he takes care of. And the blind guy, comes home, starts making food and all that kind of stuff. And then they go on the mission. Oh, he starts making a cake because in the mission there's something happening on the penthouse floor of this one building, and I think their target is the husband and the wife is throwing him a birthday party. So they meet up with one guy that I guess that like gives them like tools. Like they always have that like one guy who gives them tools. So
they're a queue essentially.
yeah. So they chit chat with this one guy who I like completely forget about. And then they start prepping for the mission, and the one guy's making a cake, and I'm like, huh? And then they're like, yeah, it's for a birthday party, and I'm like, I guess. I'm like, I'm thinking it's like these like really like high up on the ladder organized crime guys, and I'm like, is his birthday? He's having a birthday party? Like, that didn't come across my mind. But and it's also Christmas, like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or something like that. So there's like he's dressed up like Santa, and the other guy, I don't know how he got into the building, but he's in the building. Oh no, he's under the like they have the birthday cake on a cart. The blind guy's dressed up like Santa, and they are trying to get up to the top floor. Of course, they have guards at the elevator, and dude's like, "What are you doing here?" Blah blah blah, and they're like, "The wife told me to like bring this upstairs," and he's like, there's two of them. The other guy was like, "Nah," and he's like, "Nah, I never heard anything about this. Blah, blah, blah. You need to get out of here." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You don't want to make the missus mad. Let me go ahead and call her and like verify." So then he calls his Q, and in the queue, the voice modulator was like, "Get that shit up here! Don't fuck up my party!" Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, ma'am," and like let him in the elevator. And all during the day, all of like I'd say like maybe 10 minutes into the episode, you see this girl like just walking around the city by herself, and she's like, "I'm gonna find my daddy," and I'm like, "What?" And then she's like talking to people, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, that way," and I'm like, "Who's letting this tiny little girl walk across the city? Like,
Yeah.
What the hell?" And like, she's like slowly getting closer, and then like right when they are about to get on the elevator, she's like, "Ooh, cake!" and just shows up in the show, and I'm like, and then the doors close.
Wait, so there were guards before that they had to get by, but the little girl managed to get by the guards and into the elevator?
She's gotten by everybody in the city with like, I'm like, what is this? So then like the doors close, and he's like, "There's a kid," and he's like, "What?" He's like, "There's a kid just walked into the elevator," and then like she's like, "A cake," and he's like, do you want some?" She's like, "Yeah," and she's like, takes a little finger of the icing, and she's like, like get all excited, and I'm like, what's happening? And then she's like, and just starts taking fistfuls of the cake. It's just like, I'm like, that's supposed to be for a freaking mob boss's birthday.
Wow.
And then she's like, just yum. And he's like, I gotta think of something. He's like, okay, you know what? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna play a game. And then the elevator doors open, and I'm like, he didn't have time to get her out of the way. And then like just
Be like, well, this is gonna be an interesting game.
I'm like, I love it. I love that he didn't have time to deal with it. And then all of a sudden, just pandemonium breaks out. People start shooting, and then all the guests just start running away. And I'm like, oh, are the two people holding the party the only bad guys? And everybody else are just regular people? Like, what the hell's going on? And it is just craziness. And then, like, the girl's like, just like, ooh, a party, just walking around. I'm like, somebody grab this child. And, like, they're like, okay, I guess we're up here. Let's go ahead and finish the mission. So, like, the dude busts out from under the cart, and then, like, they start going, like, they just go like, through the crowd, beeline straight to their target. And, like, I think a couple guards get in the way, and then, like, something happens, and then the girl, like, it's like, I think she sees, oh, there's like a tray of desserts or something like that, and like somebody just throws the desserts in the air, and she's like, and like,
Oh God.
and I'm like, I can't remember how it happens, but like something happens, and he's like, and she's like, she sees the mob boss, and she's like, are you my daddy? And he's like, no, I'm your daddy. And then she's like, I've been looking for you all day, and like runs and jumps towards him. And I'm like, she's gonna get shot. Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, and like I don't remember, but like he ends up catching her and like diving behind the table, and then like the other guy like just headshots the mob boss, and then like the episode's over, and I'm like,
That just seems like a huge mess. Dear Lord. I mean, that's just one big giant mess, man. I'm not even sure. Like, you told me, and I'm like, so what the hell is the little girl doing around asking for her daddy? Who is this little girl?
and I'm like, is every episode gonna be like this? Because I'm like, wow.
It's like, do we just accept this? I mean, why the hell was she? Why the hell was the guy like, I'm your daddy? I
And it's
don't
like,
want to know, man.
and it's like, yeah, to like distract her, to be like, come this way so you don't get shot. And then like when they get home, she's like, I guess she's wearing a backpack the whole time. And I guess he like goes in the backpack and pulls out a picture, and it's a picture of him and the lady that like I guess he dated in the past, and then like the lady and the girl, and he's like, oh shit, this is my daughter.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
And then the guy, his roommate, was like, oh, so you can have a kid, but I can't have a cat.
Good Lord.
So, yeah, I'm there. Like, I love this show.
I didn't even watch it, and it's already giving me a headache. Good Lord.
And it's like, it was already bad enough trying to keep Anya to stay at home and not get involved in the missions.
Yeah, but at least she had like powers.
Yeah, and I'm like, this girl is just gonna be like, hey, hey, daddy, I'm thirsty. Like, how did you get here?
Go away.
And then it's like the mom. I'm like, the mom probably doesn't know that he's a spy, or maybe she's just also a spy. I have no idea. Like, yeah. And she's got to go to school, so like that's gonna be a thing. Yeah, man, I'm tired.
I just told you I hadn't even watched it, and I'm like, holy shit.
So yeah, I absolutely love this show, and I will definitely continue it. All right, the next show we're gonna be talking about, Dungeon. I didn't have internet Friday, so I couldn't watch it.
Well, trust me, you don't want to watch. You haven't watched the previous season, though, have you?
I think so. I definitely started it and worked my way through some of it. I'm not sure if I completed it.
If you haven't watched or completed the other season, you're not gonna want to watch this season, or right? Yeah, you're not gonna want to watch because this is the second core to this other season, so it immediately picks off where the other one left off.
Okay.
So you have to watch the other season for it.
Yeah.
You have to watch it. And I'm gonna say the previous season leading up to this, Dungeon time and time again does this to me where I will watch the episodes and I'm like screaming at the freaking screen. I'm just like, you, and this was so before. One of the times of doing this before, I think we all are well aware of, is when Hestia wouldn't give freaking Belle the knife. That's We're all aware of that one. I think so. I think we are. Um, I don't think the second season I did nearly as. No, I think the second season I was I think I was mainly yelling at what's her name, the goddess of love, to kill that one girl, that one woman, because she was just annoying the shit out of me. Um, I think the third season I was pretty much yelling at the screen for the one monster girl to stay with the group and go back and not separate from the group. That's what ended up killing her the first time to begin with. Just like, no, no, what are you doing? No, go back, go back. You're separating from the group. No, this is a death flag. Stop it. Um, and this last season before this, right before this, was, yeah, I was yelling at the screen for someone a specific character to die. Like, and it took 2 or 3 episodes for that wish to come true. It did, but I was still yelling at the screen the entire time, like, oh my god, someone please fuck kill him. Please, someone kill him. Kill him. I know you don't do this normally, Bill, but freaking kill him. No, don't stop her from doing it. She should do it. Kill him. But then by the time he finally does get killed, shit's already going down. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't think you could have stopped it, but you could at least have stopped him from monologuing the entire freaking time and laughing like a fucking idiotic maniac. You know that laugh I'm talking about. The one where that someone's gone completely crazy, batshit. I'm like, oh my god, kill him.
like the laugh when in the Trigun when he threw the missiles in the sky.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's like,
Except like over and over again, like
uh,
repeatedly. Like
uh,
it didn't freaking end.
uh,
And I'm like, oh my god, kill him now, kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. There are two laughs that annoy me. That laugh and the Ojo-sama laugh.
yeah.
Hate those laughs. Um, yeah. So this one has picked up right where the other one. This is the second quarter of the fourth season, so it picked up right where the other one left off. Um, yes, we are going to get backstory to the elfish character. I can't remember her name right now, but we will get backstory to her. She's in their picture. Um, and the very beginning so far has been it's kind of interesting because I mean we showed Belle for a little bit, but the beginning of this hasn't been so much Belle as it's been his people, his team. Because they're while Bella is in a very bad spot and it's very bad considering how wounded he is and everything like that. Even at this point, it's to the point where it's like I think the only reason why he's still conscious and standing is the adrenaline. Is probably the only reason why he's currently still even mobile, and even that's questionable. Um, but his team is currently down him and also fighting mid-tier boss, which is quite substantial because it's like a Hydra creature. So yeah, they're in a rough spot, and I like it the fact that they've kind of been kind of pulled together because all of them kind of had that point of like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? We can't do this, but they're like, you know what? No, we've always relied on Bell. This is our time to actually show that we can do this without him. And I'm like, all right, congratulations, good job. Let's see if you can all can do it now. But at least you've got the right mindset. You're not just oh my god, we're gonna die. We're not gonna get through this kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I'm really yeah. I think Dungeon is pretty much it's spot on from everything else we've done. I think we may be nearing a conclusion. I think because the reason why Bell's in such a tight spot right now is his team's in the mid tier levels of the dungeon. He, I won't go too many details, but he's in the lower tiers of the dungeon where he should not be, and especially in the condition he's in. But that's where he's at. He's almost, I think, from what he said was because the landscape has changed dramatically, and I think from what he said, from what knowledge they had gained from books and whatnot from previous people coming down to these levels, um, there's not too many levels below where he's at. He's almost bottom. So I'm like, oh, this could be interesting. So we'll see how this progresses. If there's another season, I mean, I can't imagine maybe one, maybe two seasons after this. So like I said, I think we're nearing the end. If it goes more than 6 seasons, I'd be surprised. So at this point, I just want them all to be able to make it out of here alive. But yep, highly recommend. I think the only season I ever had a problem with was season 2.
Yeah.
And even that, the beginning of season 2 was still pretty decent. It was just the mid to end season that was kind of like, what the fuck am I watching? But season 3, solid. Season 4, also solid so far. So we'll see where it goes.
I got a lot of catching up to do.
Shoot.
Alright, the next show we're talking about is
Long,
Reborn to,
long title.
yeah, Reborn to Master of the Blade, or Master of the Blade, from Hero King to Extraordinary Squire.
So, if I were to rank, so just as anyone's FYI, if they were paying attention, Dungeon I would definitely rank as a high A tier as far as anything goes. This I feel like also is at least a high B as far as it goes. It's interesting. I enjoy it. So the premise for this one is that a king who had been blessed by a goddess dies, and is then reborn into his wish. The goddess comes to him and on his deathbed. He's not like wounded or anything. He's just old. He ends up dying from old age. And the goddess once again comes to his deathbed and asks him, because of how many good deeds he did, she was like, if you had but one wish, what would it be? And his wish was that he be reborn and able to live his life over again, not as a ruler because he's done with that, but he always wanted to progress as a warrior. And he wanted to be not the one making the choices, but the one essentially going out to do the things. Um, so she grants it to him, and he is reborn. Unfortunately, he's reborn as the opposite sex, which is awkward, because he still retains all of his memories and all of his abilities from his previous life. So essentially, it's just like he shifted into a new body. Um, what's interesting about that is that it's still the same world. It's just progressed a great deal further into the future. Um, so there's things I like when this happens because there are things he knows that it seems like has been lost to the people of where he's at. Um, they don't have a way of doing magic. Like they have to have runes and other ways of utilizing it. Where he is essentially, because of the abilities he had before, he taps into it purely. Um, and then because of that, he has certain abilities. So, like as a baby, he was seeing these monsters attacking the city he was in, and basically they ended up crashing into the castle where he was at. And what was interesting about that was is that like they tried his mother and his cousin's brother or something like that was trying to fight it off, and they failed, but they got knocked out. So as a baby, he comes crawling up to this monster who was about ready to eat him or her, I guess. And yeah, he uses the magic that he had within him to be able to essentially Kamehameha wave this monster into oblivion. But because he was still a baby at the time, that pretty much knocked him out because he drained himself of everything that he had at that time. Um, but yeah, no, it's now like I think I've watched 3 episodes, I think. Yeah, 3 episodes, and we're already up to a point where I think he's progressed now. He's like 15 or something like that. 15, 16. So he's already a teenager now at this point. So they've time skipped a couple times. They've just kind of shown his capabilities as he's been growing. And, character wise, does he have a great deal going on as a character? Not really. But they kind of made that abundantly clear from the outset. He keeps avoiding anything that where it would tie him down as a protector or defender or like decision maker. He's like, no, I don't want to do any of that. All I want to do is fight. I just want to go out there. I want to be in the middle of the action. I want to perfect my craft and be the greatest swordsman there's ever been. But that's where I want to be. So don't tie me down to anything. So like he gave up being a knight. He's like, nope, I'm gonna be a squire to my friend who also was a knight. And every time he's done any great feats, he's always tried to push off the fame to somebody else to be like, nope, they did it, I didn't. Just so that way they're like, no one tries to tie me down to be like, oh, you were managed to defeat that monster handedly. You need to stay here and defend our city and everything. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go out. I want to find bigger and better monsters and keep fighting things and killing things. So it's fun. I mean, and I like the lore that they have. They have the lower areas, and then there's like this floating castle that has a kingdom of people who actually do use magic. And I'm almost willing to bet that the kingdom that's up there, that's been all like, because he's in the lower portion, and they've only just recently introduced these people in the higher floating castle epilon kind of thing. And I'm almost willing to bet that the people who are up there is probably from his old kingdom,
Ooh.
since they are still able to use magic. So
Ah, okay.
I'm like, yeah. So I feel like even though he keeps trying to avoid getting put into a position of being like a ruler, I feel like in the end it might end up getting thrust upon him anyways.
Yeah, because it's like everybody knows that he's a like we all know that you did this monster, you did this thing, you did that. We all know. So
We all know, and we all know you have great decision making skills and are a great leader. Great. It's like, why don't you become the next ruler? No, I don't want to. Well, too bad. You have to.
that sounds cool.
So, yep. I would definitely say, I mean, like I said, this is definitely, it's got to be at least a high B, I would say.
Okay.
I would say the first one we talked about, the fantasy world, that one was definitely a low A. This is definitely a high B. So they're pretty close to each other.
All right. The next show we're going to be talking about you. There we go. The Ice Blade Sorcerer shall rule the world. Or Hyoken no Majutsu ga Sekai wo Suru.
This is definitely a mid tier. We're back to mid tier territory here. Um, so this is what I feel like. You remember Full Metal Panic, right?
Yes.
Let's take the main character from Full Metal Panic and let's throw him in a fantasy world. And that's pretty much where we're at. This is what that is. I swear to God, the main character in this one, who what is his name? Ray White. God, even his name. Ray White is essentially the main character protagonist from Full Metal Panic, but just now made into, instead of knowing and being so proficient in guns and military, like he's now just proficient in magic. And that's pretty much where we're at. The Ice Blade is essentially, I guess, he. I want to say he was in the middle of like a military battle situation, and someone, I guess, took him in and said, like, because after he decimated something, it's like, you're too young, or you need to actually live a life as a kid, or whatever. And so now he's trying to live his life in a ordinary high school, quote unquote high school, as they're all learning about magic. And yeah, so like all the staff know who he really is, but like none of the students know who he is really. Yeah. Well, like I say, not all the staff. All the upper tier of the staff, like the principal and I think one other, know who he is. Not all the teachers know who he is, and none of the students know who he is. And yeah, he's got the same personality as the main protagonist from Full Metal Panic. Like he's very much like he doesn't know the way of the world. He's very much like matter of fact, straight to the point, militaristic personality all over the place. So I'm like, I swear, it's the first time I met him, I'm like, oh my god, they literally took the guy from Full Metal Panic and threw him in this. What the hell? So there's nothing necessarily bad necessarily beyond that to say. I think their pacing is a little bit rushed, but again, this is one of those. It's a 12 episode sort of thing, so I think maybe they're trying to condense a lot into one season. This definitely feels like it could have definitely been a 24 episode and done better. But for 12 episodes, pacing's a bit rushed. Characters are very, very stereotypical. Not a whole lot to say about them. And yeah, I think other than that, if you want a fantasy anime to watch, you could do better, but you could do worse.
Alright. The next show we're going to be talking about is uh what was it? Chilling in my 30s something?
Oh, this one. Yeah. Um so I don't think I have a huge things I'm about to say about this. It's interesting. I would definitely say this would be a mid to low B. So it's not bad, and it definitely has its high points to it. Um, a guy who was in a demon lord's army as a helper essentially gets fired because they think he's useless. Ends up turning out that instead of he's not a, there's two races. There's the demon race and there's the human race who are at war with each other. Keith always thought he was a demon. Well, turns out no, he's human.
How did that get mixed
Well,
up?
demons and humans look the same. The only difference mainly between them is demons use magic. He's never been able to use magic, and I guess it never occurred to anyone to think that maybe he was human instead. But he ends up becoming an adventurer, and I guess the way they become an adventurer is something has to be done to them, and demons always never passed that test. Well, he passed it in flying colors. And so he was like, "Oh, I might be human. Okay." But the thing is that each human has like you're able to cloak yourself and weaponry in essentially an aura, and you can use it in a specific way, whether it be shielding, whether it be slashing, whether it be piercing, whether it be bashing. Like you're always able to use it a specific way. He's able to use all of them to their highest proficiencies, and no one else has been able to do that. So he went from being someone who is considered to be the weakest to now all of a sudden someone who's considered to be the strongest, and he doesn't know how to think of himself.
Yeah.
And it was the demon lord. There's four demon lord generals instead of the demon lord himself. The generals were the ones who agreed to fire him. The demon lord apparently never agreed to that. And now they've been trying to find a replacement for him, haven't been able to do so. Demon Lord called in the main general, who's the one who already was the one who originally came up with the idea of firing our protagonist Daryl here, and basically said, "Hey, where's Daryl?" And he's like, "Hey, if you want to do better, you better find out where Daryl is." So it's funny. It's like he's a human. He has ties to demons. He's trying to essentially, anytime he has conflict where demons are involved, he tries to broker it to where the demons don't get hurt, and it kind of becomes a peaceful balance between the two.
Mm.
So I'm curious as to whether or not in the end he's going to end up essentially brokering peace between the demons and the humans.
For some
So
reason, because demons and humans look so similar, I feel like in this world it could actually happen.
yeah, I feel like it can. So, but it's been like there's just been like this divide between the two of them. So I'm thinking it's going to happen. It's just funny to me. Is from a character standpoint, him going from what he thought of as the weakest now all of a sudden being the strongest, and the race he's in is interesting because he always tries to downplay his abilities so much because he just doesn't think he can do those things. When it's like, no, 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 you can. You're just as powerful, except you're more powerful than everyone else considers. Because he's like the lower rank in the adventurers. He's
Yeah.
like E rank or whatever, but he's taking out like C or B rank monsters essentially with ease by himself. When usually it would take like multiples of those to be like multiple adventurers to take out certain characters like that. So
Okay.
it's fun. Like I said, definitely, I would say this is definitely like a mid B, mid to low B. So still good.
Cool, cool. Alright. The next show we're going to talk about. There we go. Ooh.
A long title.
Very.
Do you want to just do the English version of it?
It's also very long.
Probably better to say it. Is it the Misfit one?
Yeah, I believe so. Um, Mao Gakuin.
Yep, it's the one. This one is the Misfit of Demon King Academy 2. History's strongest Demon King reincarnates and goes to school with his descendants.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know if there's really a whole lot to say about this one. It's pretty like we're rehab we started from one. This is the second one. Biggest thing is we're learning more about our main character, Enos. He is he's lived a long time and he has met a lot of people and has made a lot of enemies. So because of that, like there is a lot of thread points plot wise that you can probably pull up with him. Honestly, I feel like this is one of those where they could go a lot of they could continue doing multiple seasons of this just because there's so many different this world has so many different beings and monsters and creations and like at this point we're facing off against what some characters have considered godlike characters. So I'm like, all right, sure. Um, I'm on episode 4, I think of it, and I'm a little off put because they've introduced some CGI elements to it, which again, this is now like if you have normal, and I get it when you need to cut corners and stuff like that, you want to throw CGI into something, that's fine, but it don't think that it's not going to be jarring to your viewers, especially when it's like pretty obvious it's CGI kind of thing. And it's so weird too because they did CGI. So you remember um Zelda Ocarina of Time, right? You remember the
I
great
know.
you remember the great Deku tree?
I remember a big tree in Breath of the Wild. It may be the same.
Okay, better example. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but Pocahontas, Disney's Pocahontas. No, okay. Essentially, they have a tree and it has a face and it talks, and
Okay.
that's the CGI element,
Oh,
and it looks weird as hell.
okay.
I'm like, but everything else, the tree is the only CGI element. The background and all the characters are not CGI.
Eh.
It looks fucking weird. It looks fucking weird. I'm like, why are we doing this? This is weird. Um,
But yeah, it's gonna be hard to draw.
yeah. So, I mean, beyond that, at the storyline, it's hard to have. It's the same as what the first season was. Some absolute insane, crazy, batshit things happen, and you're like, "Oh my god, what the fuck's going to happen? How is he going to get it? Oh, he handily got out of this mess. Okay, sure, why not?" It's like there's never any like big drama for this thing. It's like when you have somebody who has god tier level cheat skills, how do you have something that's going to be a contest for him?
Yeah.
Like when he actually cheats death, Where's the drama? Where's the conflict?
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong, it's fun to watch because of that, because you're just like, oh, you think you got the upper hand? How cute! You're adorable. But at the same time, it's also kind of one of those. It's like I'm not necessarily like Dungeon comes out. I'm like I want to watch it. I want to watch it. I want to watch it. I want to watch it because it's like, oh my god, conflict. How's Bell gonna survive this? What's gonna happen? How's the team gonna survive this? Him, I'm like, all right, what idiotic person's going to try to do something to him next? And then they even tried to go after his minions or his underlings and everything, and I'm like, well, you tried to kill him in a very complex and roundabout way, and he just found some way to subvert whatever you just did. All right, cool. Moving on. So it's fun. Don't get me wrong, and I will always say that it's fun. But I definitely think this is like high C, low B. I mean, there's just no conflict. It's just
No stakes.
there's no stakes. He's gonna win. How he's gonna win, I don't know. And sometimes it can be very corny in certain situations. But he does it, and that's what it is. So I'm like, all right. I almost think it would be more refreshing to be like, let's just go a day in school with him, because obviously he's like he goes to school with his descendants. Let's focus more on that.
Like it's in the title.
Yeah, let's just focus on that. Let's do a slice of life where we have this demon king going to school. Why not? So, eh. Like I said, if you enjoyed the first season, you'll enjoy this one. It's just more of the same. Yes, they're trying to do a different plot point to it, but it's more of the same.
Alright. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Ningen Fuji, which is
Ningen Fushin, the adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world.
yes.
That one? Okay. This one is interesting. I would definitely put this on a. This would definitely be a mid to low B tier, I would say. Um, this kind of subverts some expectations, but kind of in a weird way, where I'm not 100% on board with. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm curious enough to keep following it. So we have a group of people who are, by all means and all things, are great at what they do. Like this is a party of a cleric, a mage, a warrior, and kind of a roguish character kind of thing. And they're all really strong and great at what they do. The only thing is that they've come together as a party because the original parties that they were in, they got betrayed.
Okay.
Each one of them has been betrayed. They've had their trust betrayed. They've put their trust into somebody, into a group of people or some person specifically, and they've just been squashed thoroughly. The rogue got accused of swindling money because he was the one in charge of the finances for the party, and the leader of the party basically double crossed him and made it look like he was the one who was doing it. Um, the healer was a cleric in a town who a girl had showed interest in him and he rejected her, saying that he was a healer, he was a cleric. Essentially, he was a priesthood. Um, Being religious, he couldn't have relationships or whatnot, the ones that she wanted, and basically she accused him of molesting her, even though he never did such a thing. Um, the warrior, yeah, the warrior was basically she's a very naive dragon, half dragon character. person, and she got betrayed by her party. They basically used her as fodder, and were going to basically leave her to die in a situation where they could have helped and they didn't. The mage character, basically, she is kind of a pompous, like, oh, I do all these amazing spells or whatever, but like she essentially got heavily turned upon, essentially, during the whole thing. So I mean, each one of them have their things, and she resorted to gambling. The cleric kind of became what and you said shield hero, which is true, but at the same time, shield hero went where he's just like, I'm going to be the villain that everyone thinks I am, whereas the cleric, he's not, he doesn't take advantage or molest women, but he then just was like, you know what, people say I molest women or whatever, I've never been with one, and so he kind of took a liking to like brothels and stuff like that sort of thing. So he kind of went in that direction, but that's because people were accusing. He kind of lived up to it. He just was like, "Fuck it, I'm not dealing with that." Anyways, and the warrior just, she had her own problems, and the dude, the rogue, it was weird. I guess in this world there are idols, and he just all of a sudden became a shut-in and went to idol concerts and stuff like that, just to root for a specific idol that he liked. So they formed this party with a whole bunch of people like that, and their sole goal is to basically, they each have their own vices, and they decided that they're going to make money as a group to be able to fuel their own vices. And the girl loves to eat fancy foods, the warrior, the dragon warrior. So she wants to eat fancy foods. The rogue wants to go to idle places. The cleric wants to visit brothels, and the mage wants to gamble. So they
Two
formed
of
this
these
party.
things are not like the others.
They formed this party to be able to just indulge in their own hobbies and vices and whatnot. And what's funny about this is obviously from the title, they don't believe in humanity anymore, but they will save the world. And I think they're progressing with that, with the adventures that they're doing to feed their vices. They're actually going to be the sort of the saviors of humanity. They're going to save the world. They're going to eventually come across an adventure or kill or defeat something that was eventually a threat to humanity. So we haven't reached that point yet. We're chugging along in that direction. So, and see, that's like, it's interesting to me coming across these people who obviously have every reason to dislike and distrust humanity in general, and the only reason why they formed this group is because of a mutual distrust for humanity, and a a yearning and need to be able to do the things that they want to do, however bad or wrong they are in that situation, kind of thing. They're just like, I just want to do my own thing, and yet they're all going to form this bond together between each other and be able to do a greater good. So it's an interesting twist on things for me in that regards.
Yeah, it's like work ethic will save the world.
Well, it's not even like we're not even their not goal is like to save the world. Their goal is just to make money.
Well, yeah, it's like because it's they're getting money by doing something good to feed their hobby slash vices, and usually when somebody has like a vice that or a hobby that like people don't approve of, they go about acquiring those vices in like shady ways. But for them, they're like, we're gonna do this like proper mission, and then we get to do what we want afterwards.
Yep.
And it's like having that work ethic to keep doing the missions is
Yeah.
like gonna end up saving the world.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I mean, that's to me. I'm like, it's interesting. I'm like, all right, I'll follow along with it. I'll be a part of it.
yeah. I'm curious what mission will it be?
I don't know. I mean, they recently acquired a top tier weapon, so I'm like, okay, interesting. We'll see where that progresses. And it does seem like there is like lost technology in this world as well. So I'm curious how much that's going to play a role in it as well.
For some reason, the word lost technology doesn't have the same feeling as it does anymore.
Yeah, well, I say that because like it's obviously a medieval type world. I mean, they have warriors, bards, they have magic and all that other thing. But where they got this weapon from, it looked like a highly advanced, like super advanced technology kind of situation where
Oh
they
yeah,
were
like
fabricating things like stuff like that.
I'm just saying, like Trigun kind of spoiled that word for me,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
could see
like, I kind of don't want to hear it for like a season or two. I kind of just forget.
hey, I just generally just put that out of my head, all right? So I don't I reserve that word for this, not for that. Though it does apply either way. So
Cool. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm kind of, I don't know. It's like I'm kind of curious, but then I'm like, I'd have to go through all that betrayal. I'm like, God, I fucking hate
they
these.
they 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 move by it fairly quickly. Like it's there and they let you know it's there for whatever reasons. I think I'm on episode 4 and we've already established each person's backstory fairly well. Like they're there. We know them. It's not the big a deal. I mean, obviously this one's only 12 episodes, but see, here again, I know we said before, like, oh, they only have 12 episodes in the season to work with, so it's not, it has to go quickly or whatever, so the pacing can feel off. This one has 12 episodes. I don't feel like the pacing's off on this one.
Yeah, it's like some shows they're trying to fit like they're trying to fit like what 12 hours into 6, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like you're skipping over too much stuff.
Yeah.
But with this one, it's like I don't know. It's like it not really. I'm like it's not really like a simple story, but it's like
We're hitting all the notes that we need to hit to
yeah,
convey what we need to convey in the time that we have.
yeah. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like not. I don't know. Being efficient. It's
I would
like
agree.
yeah.
I would agree. There's obviously certain things that they're leaving out, but I feel like that's just kind of part of the experience and the adventure of learning along with everyone.
Yeah, if you leave out the proper things, you don't feel like it's left out.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
all of a sudden we're in space. Like, why are we in space? Like, don't worry about that. Like, no, you can't do that because now I'm mad.
That's a major thing. I think you need to explain that, please.
Yeah. Other shows, they're like, hey, we're doing this, and here's some backstory for this person. We're gonna do a couple things. Here's some backstory for another person. You're like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool. All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Oni-chan wa Oshimai.
Oh, this one's yours.
Onimai, now I'm your sister.
Why did you watch this one?
Oh, right. So the trailer is cute. And
How just out of curiosity, I already thought this was gonna be just awful in the cringiest of ways. Are we there with that, or is it done well?
it's interesting.
So awful in the cringy way. Got it. You're trying to be too nice with it.
So, yeah. I, saw the trailer and I'm like, ah, this is a cute show, cute girl. Okay, cute girls doing cute things. Let's go. And then I watched I read the synopsis and I was like, oh, it wasn't originally a girl.
No.
And I was like,
And in fact, he was kind of a perverted guy a little bit.
so
Oh.
so we like the. Let's see, do I have that still? Okay, so the brother
Mm-hmm.
has a younger sister actually, and the younger sister is one of those like prodigy characters that like for some reason this season all the like for a bunch of the shows that I'm watching they're like, oh, she's the greatest at sports and she's the smartest in the school and she's the greatest and good looking. And I'm like, why does everybody keep saying that? I'm like, that's a trope. I'm like, every show keeps saying the same lines. And I'm like, shut up. So basically his.
I want to take the greatest in this one, and the greatest in this one, and the greatest in this one, and the greatest. Have you all meet and be like, okay, now who's the greatest among the greatest here? Because
Yeah.
y'all need to make a decision here.
Yeah. That would be. Wow. If somebody actually like did that, took all the prodigies and put them together. It's like a
We're
the
gonna
Avengers.
we're gonna isekai all the prodigies and be like, all right, now.
Oh, that's a perfect way to do it too. um, God,
Battle Royale.
they would all hate each other. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So great.
No, I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest.
So, yeah. So she's one of those prodigy characters where she's like great at sports, academics. Everybody's like, yeah, it's all great, blah blah. And he is the older brother.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as like family dynamics and stuff like that, the older sibling is supposed to be the one who like sets all the goals and everything. So they did a good job, in my opinion, for explaining why he is kind of like just a shut in, kind of like doesn't try anymore. I'm like, they don't show the parents or any of the like the dynamic where it's like, oh, you should be more like your sister. You're the oldest. Why aren't you like the greatest and all that kind of stuff? But it's implied. I'm like, oh, I get that. So it explains his situation, why he's like depressed, basically, and kind of like just retracts inside of his room. Um, Now the sister, like, there's always a balance in the world. Like, you can't have a character who's like great at everything and not have any flaws. So whether they're hidden or not, um, she is like a washu. She's like one of those like mad scientists
Oh
characters.
boy.
Where it's like,
You know, there's never anything good that one comes when you have to describe a character as a washu. There's never anything good about that.
So, yeah, like I don't. It's so weird. Like in the first episode, I don't like you see the sister a bunch, but you don't really see like what percentage of her is this like antagonist to her brother, basically. And it's like, is it the now that my homework and everything else is done, I'm bored. Let me go get my lab coat and do something fun. Like, I don't know much about the older sister other than it's her fault that all this happened. So basically, the show starts out with the brother waking up and like, I'm like, if you wake up and like reach for something and that's not your arm, I'm like, wouldn't that wake you up right away? Like,
I would think.
yeah. It took him a good 5 minutes to realize, like, this isn't my body. Like, I'm like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, like he gets up and he's like, "Oh, I feel kind of weird." And he like reaches for something. He's like, "Were my hands always that small?" And he's like doing other things, and like he sees his reflection and doesn't notice it. And then he like picks up a tablet and puts it on the thing. And I'm like, "Why did you set it? Why did you set your tablet on the bookshelf in that way?" And then he like turns it on, turns on the camera, and then sees himself, and he's like, "Ah!" And I'm like, "It took you that long to notice?" I'm like, Jesus Christ. So, um, so he starts freaking out, and then he's like checking himself and everything, and then he's like, of course, looks straight down. He's like, "Oh no!" And then he starts pulling his like, is it? And then the sister walks in. He's like, "Oh, looks like everything's going according to plan." And I'm like, excuse me, knock anybody? I'm
Yeah.
like, so he's like frozen solid because he's like butt naked basically, and she just walks in and like acting like nothing's like she doesn't be like, who are you? Where's my brother? Like none of that. She's like, oh, everything's going according to plan, and he's like talking to her, and I'm like, what is happening? And she says something, and then he immediately looks at his coke, and he's like, did you drug me? And she's like, only one drop. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is not good. This is not okay. Why are y'all talking casually about druggy?
Drugging your sibling.
Yeah. I'm like, no. So basically,
Good
she was
lord.
done doing all her homework and all that kind of stuff and decided to do an experiment on her brother. And I'm like, this.
See the way they casually do that, I would be like, it would make more sense to me if there would have been something said of like, again.
Yeah. And I'm like,
But the fact that he was so shocked that it happened, and then like, yeah, I'm like, come on, you have to, if you're going to introduce a character like that, you have to do it to where it's like, and if they've already grown up together, this should be like a normal occurrence where it had been like, really? Again? What? How many times do I have to tell you not to experiment on me?
yeah. And like the one reason why I say it's interesting is because I don't think it's gone this far before. Like, I think she's always like played pranks on him and some
Mm.
like stuff like that. But like this is like the biggest thing that she's ever done.
See, that to me, did he say something to that in that regards?
Well, there's other things that she mentions like throughout the episode that I'm like, ah,
I would think he would
it's
have to be more upset about that in that regards to say something like that. That would make more sense to me.
yeah. So like, it's I'll just go from I'll like go through the rest of the episode. Um, so once he finds out what happens, she basically just goes along with her plan, and she's like, "All right, so now you're a girl," and I can't remember what else she tells him, but he's like, "Fine, kinda," and like, I'm gonna do what I was gonna do anyway. So he's like, goes back to his games and stuff like that, and then she's like, you should be careful about those erotic games because the female thing is 100 times more powerful than the male thing.
Oh
So,
God.
so
Oh God. We're going there.
I would go ahead and warn you. You should be careful. And like he immediately gets terrified, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And like she kind of like ruins his fun. And he's like, I'm scared now. What do I do?" So
Yeah.
so she goes off back into her room, and then I guess she comes. I can't remember, but basically, she comes to check on him and like his vitals and stuff like that. And then she's like, all right, you smell like a puppy, so you need to go. He's like, when's the last time you took a shower? And he's like, like 5 days ago, I think. And he's like, go take a shower. And she gets him a shower, and then like, I brought you some clothes, and of course it's like the most girly, frilly clothes ever. And he's like just holding up the things, and he's like, he ends up putting them on, and is because there's like 5 different, like 4 or 5 different items of clothing, and once he gets dressed, I'm like, something's missing, like,
oh boy,
and I'm like, and it's, and I don't understand why I got that feeling until like later on. So I'm like, something's missing, and like he's kind of like bashfully liking the clothes, and she's like talking to him about different things, and she's like, yeah, you like blah blah blah, and it's weird that like he went from why did you do this to me to kind of like I like this dress, like, and I'm like,
see, okay,
what's going on here?
Because even the one where the guy got the old king got reincarnated and then get into a girl, like he even mentions the fact of like oh man, I'm a girl now, and then as he grows up, he's like, man, is this what? Because there's goes to a ball and has to get dressed up or whatever,
Yeah.
and feels the gaze of all of the people, and he's like, oh God, is this what it's like to be a freaking to be a female? It's like, oh my God, I feel bad every time a beautiful woman came into the room and I just stared openly at them, just admiring their beauty because this feels just awkward. No, it's wrong. Ugh.
Yeah.
See, that would be a normal reaction to something like that.
Yeah. So, what was it? He kind of doesn't have anything to do now since he can't. He's scared to play his games now.
Oh, good lord, that was his entire world then, huh?
Mostly.
Oh, good lord.
And oh, and RPGs too. So like he does play some RPGs, but then like after grinding a bunch of levels, you're kind of like, oh, I need to change the pace. So he so what was it? She comes up with a plan to get him out of the house, and he's like, I haven't been out of the house, and I don't remember the exact time, but let's say it's like 5 years. I haven't been out of the house in 5 years, and I have to go out of the house in this condition. So he's all like, no, not like this, and she basically literally drags him out of the house, and she's like, we're gonna go jogging. So, um, of course, he's like out of shape and like just barely, just barely trying to keep up with her, and she's like light jogging. She's like looking back, and he's like just stumbling behind her, and that's when it goes into one of the points of her being like an athlete. Like he's like, oh, she's always been athletic, blah blah blah, and it goes into that. So I'm like, okay, and then they get um, oh, they run for however many miles, and then the sister comes back to him and she's like, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" And he's like, "My nipples hurt." And I'm like,
Oh my god.
"Oh, that's what was missing." He picked
Yeah.
up everything else and like left the freaking sports bra.
Oh,
And
good lord.
I was like, "Oh." She's like, "We're gonna go to the store right now," and I'm like, "You should have put it on, man." Now
Yeah.
she's gonna drag you to the freaking
Yeah.
lingerie store.
Oh, good
So
lord.
there we go, in a lingerie store. And there's like, of course, this like overly anime developed lady like in charge of everything. And I'm like, I don't want to be here. But then, but then she's like a professional, and she's like, all right, we're gonna take your measurements and blah 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 and all that kind of thing. She's like, here's 2 things that I believe are your size, and she's like, um, which one would you like? And then he's like, don't like looking at her like, don't make me choose. And she's like, I think you should do this when they give her like the sports bra. So she puts that on and they go back to the house. And then they take a bath or whatever, and then she puts on another set of clothes, and it's like the fancier, like going on a date kind of clothes, where it's like the white shirt and like the nice skirt and stuff like that. And she's all like twirling in the mirror and everything, and I'm like, he is really liking this, this situation now. And I'm like, what? I don't know what to think of this. Like,
yeah.
so as the episode goes on, and like you get to see a little bit more of like the sister's room, because like of course she has like a camera in there like watching him, checking on him and stuff like that. And they like pan to the side, and like there's this like report on her desk, and it's like um, brother rehabilitation project.
Oh God.
And I'm like,
well, now we know why she did it.
and then I'm like, okay, is it so basically this whole thing is an intervention, but is this the right way to go about it? I'm like, what if he doesn't want to turn back to a boy? Like, what? It's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
you may he may like it now. Apparently.
And I'm like, it's fine. Like, choose whatever you want to be. But I'm like, it's. I'm like, I don't. Where's the show going? Like,
I don't think I want to know where the show's going.
yeah, so in the current anime chart picture, there's basically the character surrounded by a bunch of girls, and when the outro showed, it looks like it's a bunch of his sister's friends that are all hanging out with him and stuff like that. And then that gives me the whole feeling, like the weird feeling of the the younger brother and like the older sisters that are like quite a bit older, to where like let's say the sisters are in high school and the brother is like in elementary, and they're all like, let's dress him up like a girl and like just put barrettes and do his hair, and he can't do anything to stop them. Like that's the feeling that I got in the intro, where like they're just playing dress up with him, and I'm like, I don't know what I think. I have no idea. I'm like if he switches and wants to stay a girl and he's happier, then I'm like, is this what the show is? And I'm like, it's an interesting way to talk about that subject. But if she's just pranking him and like, oh, I actually just wanted you to like get out of the house and be a normal like productive member of society, and like I don't know, like it's yeah. So it's like, other than those two things, I'm like, it's funny, it's cute, I like it. But it's interesting because I'm like, where is it going?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know why you continue. I'm like, this is already bizarre even to me as far as that goes. So I don't know. Yeah, I
I'm
guess if
curious
you.
what like what the sisters' friends are like, what their part of it is gonna be. Is it like dress up time? Like that's their role in the show. But yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know, but Godspeed to you if you continue watching it.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's cute and funny, so I'm like, I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next show we're gonna be talking about is
Saving 80,000 gold in another world from my retirement.
Yes. How is this one?
Hmm.
Oh man.
I feel like the biggest problem, the biggest gripe I have with this one is honestly probably just the pacing. I feel like if they were able to allow it to breathe a little more, it probably would be better. Because like right now, I would consider this a low B, high C tier. It's not bad. It definitely is interesting as far as the premise goes. So I guess she's definitely been down on her luck. I wish they would explain more about the family and why she's basically alone, but they really don't go very much into that. That's what I said. I feel like there's more storyline to be told, but they're not telling it. So I'm like, there's a lot of like, what the hell's going on? Why is this like this? And it's just kind of a lot of it's being brushed over. Um, but I like the premise. Like she had a near fatal experience, and when doing so, as happenstance luck would be, there was a cosmic being that had been around that I guess she collided with or had reached out towards and ended up in her wanting to live, took a part of him into herself, and in so doing gained the ability to shift from one world to another. And she has the ability to shift there and shift back.
What do you mean by shift?
Like she will just appear. She goes from one reality to the other.
Like I dream of Genie, kind of just boom, and then you're in the other world.
Basically. 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 Um and she had some questionable issues with being able to go where she lands when she comes from one world to another. Because at one point she can take stuff with her. So at one point she took a electric scooter, but then she traveled. She can only travel to places that she knows. So if she's in the other world and she wants to come back here, she can appear in her house. And if she wants to go from her world to the other world, she can only appear from places that she's been to and knows. She doesn't have to go directly back to the place she was. She just has to know where she was, where she wants to, or been there before, or seen it. Because what she did one time is she wanted to go to a different place in our world. She used satellite video photos because she hadn't been there, but she could see it and she knows what it was like.
That is a very for all the people who have had that power. That part of it has never been used. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
let me Google Map it so that I can actually go
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That's it.
That's really cool.
See, that's what I said. It has interesting moments. I just wish there was more information spread out through it.
Hmm.
Um, and she took the moment like time is the same in both worlds.
Okay.
So if it's night here, it's night there. And however long she stays in our world is forever long she's not in the other world and vice versa. So time is parallel in that regards. Because at one point she was being attacked by some wolves. Her and this other person she met in the village, they had been out looking for herbs, berries, whatever, and they got attacked by some wolves. She pushed the other girl up a tree for safety, and then she ran off. And after she ran off, she teleported back to our world. Well, the girl was having a problem staying in the tree, and the limb she was on was breaking. So she was rushing in our world to gather some supplies and a weapon that she could use in this world. but the time was similar. So she had to hurry up because she barely made it back in time to save the girl after the tree limb broke and she fell to the ground.
That's really cool.
So I said, I I have a hard time with this one. I I would love to give it like high B grading, almost A, but I feel like we're glossing over too much. So, and this was based upon what, a light novel, I think. Where does it say? Original thing from? Yeah, source is light novel. I almost want to just read the light novel. 'Cause I'm like, I feel like this would be way better, the light novel version, than the anime version was we're getting right now. It's not to say that the animation's bad. Not, it's just the pacing we're off on. And I get she's a smart girl. She understands and she's understanding things. She's immediately picking up on things. I'm like, cool. Like when she went to the other world after she had been thrown off a cliff, essentially. Yeah, the kids were doing stuff and she got pushed and she was next to a fence line where it was a cliff and went backwards over the fence line and was falling, which is how this whole started. But she appeared in a grass meadow and she actually did the more sensible thing of being like, okay, let's logically think about this. I'm breathing, I'm alive, I feel intact, nothing's wrong with me. Okay, so what happened? What happened? What did I do? Where am I at? Like she actually thought logically about it all. And I'm like, hell yeah, logical thinker. And I actually came across somebody and she didn't understand their language because she came from our world to the other world. The other world didn't have the same language. So it's like, she's like, oh, I'm in another world. Okay, check that box off and be like, all right, let's move on. What do we have to do from here?
I was like,
She's like, okay, what do we have to do from here? So a lot of it is like logically making sense. She's learning skills from in our world about shooting, defending herself, weapon training. That's why she went and looked Google search because she found somebody who would give her that training because she made money in the other world and now is using it in order to get supplies and other things from our world going back into the other world. So like a lot of it is making logical sense. I just wish there was more explanation.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I might have to check that one out. Alright. The next show we're going to be talking about is The Fruit Evolution 2. Before I knew it, my, my life had it made.
Uh, I feel like this is one of my like guilty pleasure things where it's like I shouldn't like this one, but for some reason I do. Or because in my hearts of hearts, I feel like this is such a cliche anime in so many ways that I should put it as like a mid tier, if that, honestly. But I still watch it. I don't know why I watch it. I watch it. It has so many tropes, so many like and if I was upset about like things like Attack on Titan where they're like they never got back to the 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 basement for the longest freaking time, I should be just as upset with this one for similar reasons where they like keep alluding to certain things but they never like go into it or they never they drop certain points and I'm just like, come on, get back to it. I want to see it. Come on, see it. But I still watch it. Again, for those of you out there and watching it, if you've watched the first season to this, it's more of the same. We haven't deviated, we haven't gone off in a different direction. Um He's now gone to the school where his other classmates had gone to, but we are 4 episodes into the new season and he still hasn't met up with the other classmates. Which I'm like, how the fuck have we gotten to this point? And he's now a teacher for some students because he's shown such great magical aptitude. And it's as stereotypical as you can get. The students are flunkies who don't amount to much, and he's supposed to train them to be better. And I guess one of them has a brother who's like the higher echelon of the school or whatever, looks down on him, thinks he's trash. He's, royalty revined or whatever. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some conflict involved with that. Pretty stereotypical stuff. So I don't have much to say about it. It's kind of just, it is what it is. I'm like, why am I watching this? But I continue to watch it.
Okay. Cool. Alright. The next show we're going to be talking about is Spy Classroom.
This one's yours.
Yes. I got all the spy shows.
I see that.
So, the show starts out with all of them on a mission. Each person calling out and doing their specialties. All of them running, and they'd be like, "Hold on," and then they like disappear. And they're like, "All right, go." Jump back out, go. Cool stuff happening, and then they're like, months earlier. I'm like,
So they tease you with something amazing, and they're like, backtrack.
yeah. So I'm like, okay. And there's this meeting with a guy and another person, and I'm like, who is he? He is not the cute spy girls. Um, and basically the guy is like, I have a special mission for you, and if you can complete this mission, and the guy's sitting painting nothing but red. It's just red, red, red. I'm like, what is this painting? And the guy's talking to him, and he's like, I'll give you a special, if you can do this one mission, I'll give you the title as the best spy on Earth. I'm like,
It's a bit much.
what is going on? And then it cuts away from him and cuts to the main girl. And I'm like, I don't. Where? When are we gonna start? um, so it cuts to her being the only person left in her school, and she being transferred to another school. Um, she gets to the other school, and there's nobody there. And then she starts walking around, and then she notices that something's crooked and goes over and pushes it, and a secret door opens. And then she climbs through that passage and then to another passage, and then she goes up. She pops up at this raggedy school, and then she goes in there, and there's like 8 or 9 other girls. I don't know how many. All the other girls are there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, so that first building was a test, and now this is the real building, but there's still no teachers or anything, and I guess everybody passed because everybody's here. So I'm like, okay. Um, and then they all start talking to each other, and um, one of them was like, oh, one of them asked her, um, like, about herself, and she was like, I don't know. I was like a flunky at my school. I was like, oh, that's why she was the last person there. Because everybody else got like recruited on like missions and stuff. So I was like, okay. And then she's like, yeah, just like us. And I'm like, oh, oh. All of y'all are flunkies. Okay. Um, where's the teacher? And all of a sudden, the teacher shows up, and it's that guy who was just painting nothing but red. I'm like, oh, it's his mission to turn all these girls into great spies. Yes. Um. So he kind of talks to them and tells them that they're going on an impossible mission in a month, and he's there to train them to be great spies. And they're like, impossible mission? They said impossible mission is 90% new people, something fails, something. I'm like, what? I still don't understand what they were trying to say. I'm thinking that they only send new spies on missions that have a 90% or greater chance of victory.
Makes sense.
And Impossible Mission is not that, so they're upset.
Well, I mean, that kind of sounds like what they did in oh God, what is it? The Exorcist school with no, 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 no. Oh
Oh.
my God. The one where the guy was eating the fingers. What the fuck? It was God, why am I blanking on this? I got the damn name. Anyways, got sent on a mission that was
Oh,
like
eating
S
the
tier.
fingers, yes.
They were supposed to be sent they got sent on a mission that was supposed to be for S tier or like greater, like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and they got killed, or what the main dude got killed.
Okay.
So yes, I completely understand that. They're like, chance of success of us not dying.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. So yeah, and they said that line like multiple times. I'm like, please stop. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the first time you said it. Um, so so yeah, they're all upset, and he's like, I will teach you. So he's like, here you go. And he goes around and hands them a lock, and he's like, take it. And they're like, man, this is a really complicated lock. It's gonna take me about 15 minutes to do this. And he's like, he walks around and just snatches it out of each of their hands. And I'm like,
You just gave it to him.
I'm like, how did everybody let him snatch it from them? Like, if you see him snatch it from like one, maybe two people, then just be like, here. Like,
Yeah,
you don't have to snatch it from me. I know you want it back here. Like,
yeah.
so I'm like, okay, rude, and weird, but okay. And he's like, so you do it like this, and he like throws up all the locks and just goes, and then they all detach, and then
Of
they hit the
course,
ground. He's
of
like
course.
that, and they're like, what? And he's like, he picks it all up, click, 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 like that, and he's like, I don't, we don't follow. And he's
Wow,
like,
he's an even worse teacher than the guy from that anime I was talking about. And I thought that was pretty bad. He's even worse. Jeez.
like, he's like, okay, I need a minute, and he just goes back to his room and starts painting red, red, red. So then the girl that we were following earlier was the main spy girl out of all of them. Um, she goes upstairs and is like, were you gonna come back and teach us more stuff? And he's like, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And she's like,
Oh
so
boy.
so then she starts asking him questions, and what was it? He did a really good explanation of how he thinks, but I still think it's dumb. Like, it's still a bullshit answer, but I understand what you mean.
Uh-huh.
So, what was it? He's like, um, he's like, how would you explain to somebody how to put on a shirt? And she's like, I would put it over my head and then put my arms to it. And he's like, which arm would you put in first? And she's like, and he's like, would you like when you put it over your head? Do you like tilt your body? Do you like lean over? Do you do like other things? And she's like, he's like, I don't know, just do it. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I can't explain how to pick the locks like that because I just do it. And I'm like,
I get what he's saying.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I get it. This still doesn't help.
Yeah, I know. I get what he's saying, but it's still.
So, um, so she comes up with the idea. She's like, so I have an idea. How about we go on a field trip? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, when you like get out, like seeing different things, getting fresh air, like it may come up with ideas and something may click. And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. And she's like, I'll come back with like a list of places where we can go, and we'll do that tomorrow. And he's like, cool, cool. So they show up at the place. They just cut to the next day, and it's the girl and the teacher only. And I'm like, where's everybody else? And she's like, nobody else wanted to join, and so it's just us two. And I'm like,
Well, that's awkward.
okay. So they uh they go start like talking about this and that, and then they get to a point where there's some boats on a pier. And she's like, let's go take a boat. And then they go take the boat, and then they're out in the middle of the lake, and then how does it happen? Um, she says something, and then he like collapses, and then she starts going into her backstory that she's a poison expert, and she's like, I decided to take you out here, and then I'm gonna go back to my school because I'm not gonna go on this impossible mission. And then he's like, well, I had a feeling that something was fishy because the place where we're at now was not on the list that you gave me. And I also picked a boat that was broken. So we're sinking right now. And he's like, so it'd probably be a good idea if you use the antidote so we could so I could like fix this. And she's like, ah. So then she starts reaching in her pocket and like she's like, I left the antidote on my desk at the house. And he's like, well, we got about 5 minutes before the boat um sinks. So you should probably row as fast as you can. And then they barely make it to the shore. And the whole time he's just like, yeah, we got about 5 minutes, so you should probably row as fast as you can. And then they get there and he's like, cool, we made it in time. Um, it's about another 5 minutes before the poison wears out, so they just start talking, and he's just like arms flopped to the side, just talking like normal. He's like giving her compliments on like coming up with the strategy and stuff like that, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Okie dokie.
So, um, yeah, and as soon as the antidote wears out, he like stands up upright, and then they like, and he's like, because you took initiative, and like you're the first person to like approach the situation. Um, I have two like because of that I have two things to say. One, I want you to be the leader of the class, so you're gonna be the lead. Like You're gonna call the shots. You're gonna be the leader of the group. And then 2, I figured out how I'm gonna teach you. And then it cuts to them explaining to the class, and it's like, the way that he's gonna train us is we're gonna try to kill him.
How did I know that was the solution I had to come up with? Like, I was like, oh, look, they're gonna die. Look at that. All right. The trial by fire, I guess.
Yeah. So I was like, huh, interesting. It's not like the other Spy Girls show where I'm like, they're all cute and I don't care what they're doing on this missions. This is more like, what can y'all do? What kind of like skills do y'all have? Like, what kind of stuff can y'all do that I won't ever think of? Like, I'm intrigued.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah, Spy Classroom. It was very fun. Well, it was a confusing ride, and then
I was
now
about to
now
say, you
yeah
saved son, really.
yeah it was a very confusing ride, and now that everything's like straightened out, and I know like I didn't know which way we were pointing, and now we're like, okay, cool, we're going this way, and I'm like, all right, let's go.
Sounds
So,
more like this is assassination classroom all over again. Just with
yeah,
somebody who's not a alien.
yeah, yeah. It was a very interesting way to like set up a class.
I would say.
'Cause, like they didn't even mention that like, oh, you noticed like the show is progressing like I'm like you're not stupid. Like
Mm.
like she went to like the fake school and then found the secret passage and then everybody else was there and they're like, yeah, that was a test. We don't need to acknowledge. We don't need to like bring up the point that that was a test. They just moved on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, they know where that's at. Yeah. So I like it. All right. The next show we're talking about is another one of mine. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale.
Oh God, yes, it is so yours.
So, before watching the show, this
uh,
title just sounds like super sappy, sweet cutesiness.
yeah, I'm about to say that title. I think just gave me cavities.
And now that I've watched the first episode, it feels less so because sugar apple is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of cutesy words fairy tale, it's a thing fairy tale. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Even if it was a thing, I think that thing would be too sweet, anyways.
So, um, let's see. It starts with the girl and her mom,
Mm.
uh, basically talking about um, fairies and um, like the relationship between fairies and humans, and um, this one type of art where you're carving statues out of sugar apples, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I guess it's like a sugar cane, but like sugar canes are ugly. So sugar apples would be cuter. So they made it a sugar apple. I don't know. But so yeah, so the mom is like carving this like elaborate sculpture of a fairy out of the sugar apple material. And she's like they're basically like educating her daughter on like the whole process and like the history of the fairies and stuff like that. And like she's just totally enraptured by the story. Um, and then um, me, I'm looking at like what she's making, and like they're showing like a zoomed in like details. I'm like, I can't tell like what kind of like it's not clay. I'm like, it's sugar apple, but I'm like, what is it like? Kind of like I don't really know. And then the mom sits the figurine down and like it zooms out and it's this like super immaculate, intricately designed like sugar statue. And I'm like, whoa. And the daughter's like, oh, and her eyes are all sparkly. And then like she ages like 10 years immediately and like looks a little bit sadder. And I'm like, what? The mom's dead. And then she's like holding these white flowers, and I'm like, those are dead people flowers. I don't like those types of flowers. And then she like, it like zooms out, and she like rests the flowers on a grave. I'm like, God damn it. So now she's alone, and she lives in this village, and everybody talks about how great her mom was. And I'm like, this sucks immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one like fancy pants guy. Like, oh, like the girl, she's in. It's not a cart. Like, it's a house with. It's like a tiny hut with wheels on it. Like, it.
That sounds like a cart, but okay.
It. Like, imagine a wooden porter potty. Like, it's
That's
just a.
even worse.
It's just like
That's
a.
even
Well,
worse.
it's like. Oh, it's like that's what we start. That's where we're starting. It's like a box made out of wood with a door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make it a little bit like maybe like twice the width, like just a bit bigger. And it's like a small wooden structure.
Mm-hmm.
Put a platform under it and put some wheels on it, and then let's drag it with a horse. And she's like sitting in front of that, and because it's like it's not like a covered wagon where it's like round and like a bunch of people can sit inside and it's all open to the air. Like it's a box with a door on it and some wheels under it. And I'm like, what is that? It's the ugliest cart I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
sounds like it.
so she's like about to leave, and like the guy's like, "No, don't leave. Just like marry me. I'm rich and I have a big family, and blah, 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 I'll take care of you." Blah blah blah. And she's like, basically, she like leave me alone, and like she just goes off on her adventure. Um, and um, what was it? Yeah. So she's looking at the map. She goes to this one place, and it immediately like turns dark. She
Hmm.
goes to this one. Oh, she goes to this one village, and there's this giant crowd of people, and she's like, "What's going on?" And like, she asks like some of the people, and they're like, "Oh, this one fairy trader. He's like abusing one of the fairies." And she's like, "What?" And like, it cuts to them, and like, like the fairy's like, no, the trader's like, "You tried to steal your wing back and I caught you." And then the fairy's like, "Yeah, I'll do it again. No, it's my wing." Blah. And then he like the trader grabs the wing and just crushes it in his hands. And like it's kind of like I think one of the fairies said it was like it's like their heart. It's like somebody squeezed their heart, so they're like, "Oh!" and starts freaking out. And I'm like, "Oh my god, this this went dark real quick. I don't like
Yeah.
this." And and then of course the girl's not gonna stand by and watch this, so she like um walks up behind the dude, gives him a swift kick in the back of the knee, and he just topples over. And then she like grabs the wing from him and gives it to the fairy, and he's like, um, "Don't think I ever trust you humans," and he like snatches his wing and flies off. And I'm like, feel like he's gonna be back soon, and he's gonna be her friend, but I don't know yet. So then of course he turns on her, and then like everybody else finally stands up to him because they're like, "You're picking on a girl now," and
Mm-hmm.
he was picking on a fairy, and they were like, "That sucks, but we're not gonna do anything about it."
Yeah, it's a
So
fairy. Yeah, whatever.
yeah, so they all gang up on him, and he runs off, and then she goes to the other part of the village where like the fairy trade is there, and I'm like, this is just more not cool. And basically, it's a bunch of fairies sitting in cages with one wing, and then their other wing is like posted on a wall next to them.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and I'm like, I from what we saw, like what from what we were like reading in a synopsis, I was
That
like,
didn't. Yeah, that didn't sound anything like that.
and I'm like, this is yeesh. So, um, she walked, and I'm like, everybody just casually walking through this, and I'm like, this is not cool at all. Um, so she's like, I'm looking for a warrior fairy. And I'm like,
I don't. Considering the fact that they're the way they are, I don't think you even want one because apparently they didn't do enough good to defend themselves.
yeah, and I'm like, is a warrior fairy different than these little tiny guys? Because if one of, I'm like, what can they do? They're tiny. And yeah, so they're like, yeah, the warrior fairies are like a problem, so they keep them over there. And then she like goes over there, and there's this man just like sitting in a dark tent, and she like walks in, and immediately sees like this giant blue fluorescent like wing coming off of him. And I'm like, that is not a fairy. That's a grown ass man.
With a wing.
Yes.
Wow.
So, um, so she's like stunned by his wing, and like he's just sitting there staring at her. And then the trader that like owns the fairy walks in, and what was it? She's like, oh, she sees him and she's like, oh, I'm looking for a warrior fairy. And he's like, there's one right there. And she's like, him? How can he like defend me? And I'm like,
Why does she even need a warrior? Like, where did this all come from? Like, did I miss something in this whole thing?
not yet.
All right, cool.
So she's like, how can he defend against it? Um, he's like, yeah, that's a warrior fairy. 100 boo, whatever the money's called. And I'm like, I don't know if that's expensive or cheap or you get the deal or he's trying to rob you. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, so she kind of responds like it was a little bit too much. She wasn't like 100. She's like, nah, I'm kind of looking for something stronger, I guess. And then the guy pulls out this pouch that's like the size of his hand,
Mm.
and then squeezes it, and then the warrior fairy's like, ah, like the other thing was, and I was like, but the wing is way bigger than that pouch, so the wing couldn't possibly be in there. And she's like, and he's like, $100, I'll keep doing this, and she's like, stop, you're hurting him, and I'm like. She's like, here, find 100. And he's like, here you go. And then she pulls out this fucking big ass wing out of this pouch. And I'm like, I don't understand the physics of these wings at all. Makes no sense. But now she has a warrior fairy. And I guess she can continue her journey to wherever she's going. Um, so then she pulls out the map again, and she's like, "All right, now, um, so I need you to help. Like we're going down Bloody Road, and I need you to guide me there." I'm like, "Could you be any more obvious? Like that where all the bad guys live? Like."
Yeah.
So he mentions a couple things that are down there, and he's like, "There's this, there's that, and if we make it, then we got to get past this thing too." And I'm like, "It looks like I have good odds." Um, so they start going, and I think he keeps calling her Scarecrow
Mm-hmm.
because she's like skinny, I guess. Red hair looks, her hair looks like um, hay. Um, and then yeah, they just like romance characters argue. Like every time he want like try every the only way he can get her to stop fussing is like he gets real close up on her and like that whole like shove your hand like next to her head and like get all up in her face and then she's all like oh, and like stops talking like that whole thing that like romance shows do like it's they do that like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, cut it out, please.
Why are you
So
watching this again?
I gotta find my notes. I don't remember. It's probably the trailer. Um, but yeah. So I'm like, okay. So we're going down Bloody Road, and he's a warrior fairy, and I guess he's strong because he doesn't look strong, so of course he's strong. Um, and yeah, we'll see what's gonna happen. So they start going, and then he's like, "Stop," and she's like, "Huh?" And she's like, "Stop." I'm like, when somebody says stop, I'm like, "All right, what?" Like I don't say what and keep trying to keep going.
Yeah.
So she like stops and like there's some bandits that like just finished killing a bunch, like killing a caravan, and like they're all like rah, big hoods, and they're like running around in a circle. I'm like, y'all are done killing it. Like, weren't y'all gonna like take your spoils home or something, or you just gonna be like, yay, run around in circles?
Yay.
So they spot them and they immediately start running towards it and towards them, and and she's like, they're coming this way, go get them. And he's like, is that an order? And she's like, would you please go get them before they come after us? Like, I'll be fine, but you need protection. So, are you ordering me to fight them? And she's like, stop making me see. Like, it's just fussing. And I'm like,
Wow.
and then she's like, go fight them. And he's like, fine, that'll do. And then he goes and just slices them into pieces. And I'm like, holy shit. And then the episode ends. I'm like, okay, this is a very weird show.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say.
It's like, I think I like it, but I don't know what I like about it. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, is this a romance? Like,
You
it's
guess this is
definitely an adventure show, but it looks like a romance, and it's kind of acting like a romance. But there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff in it. Yeah.
yeah, you that's weird, man. That's I don't even know what to think about that. I just lost half I lost my what the hell we were that it's weird. It's weird.
Sugar apple, fairy tale. All right. The next show we're going to be talking about is uh, Ton Demos Skill. Uh,
Which one?
um, Campfire cooking in another world. Oh, with my absurd skill. Was this as funny as we made it?
It is actually pretty good.
Cool.
I would actually rank this one probably high B tier, honestly.
Okay.
Um, like I said, way better than I think we even gave it credit for. It so it starts off pretty typical. Like he gets isekai'd. Him, three other people get isekai'd to this world.
Interesting.
They get assessed of what their abilities are. One of them has heroic swordman skills. The other two show high aptitudes for the other two show high aptitudes for magic. He gets assessed for his ability, and his ability is simply um, his ability is simply online shopping, and everyone's just like, "Excuse me, the fuck? Say again?" Um, and so no one really understands what it is that his ability necessarily does. They're just kind of like, how does that correlate between anything? What they find out is that when he activates his skill, essentially a holographic screen appears in front of him that only he himself can see. And when he does, it basically is Amazon. He can get pretty much anything he wants, but whenever he does, he has to put coins from our world, touch it to the screen, those coins will disappear, and that's his payment. So he still has to pay for these things. He can't just get these things for free.
Oh.
But so when they saw his skill, they didn't want anything to do with them, but they felt bad, so they gave him some money and sent him on his way because they didn't think he'd be useful. Here's the thing. He starts getting things because he's nostalgic for his old world, our world, right? So what he does is he starts getting food to make, and he leaves the country or the kingdom that he was in that he got isekai to, and is traveling to another kingdom. He hires a party of adventurers because he has no combat skills, and there are monsters on the route. So he's getting the food, he's making it for everyone, and everyone's just absolutely stunned and amazed about all the food that he's making. He's secreting his skills so no one sees what it is that he's basically doing. But he has also an ability that he was given to assess. So he can see like people's skill sets and what their stats are essentially. And he realizes the food he's making is actually giving everyone a bonus to all of their stats. So essentially he's buffing everybody. And then while he was making all this food, there is a high tier wolf spirit that comes across him and his party and gets hungry from smelling the food that he's cooking. And then all of a sudden bursts into their encampment while they're eating and demands to be fed. Well, everyone's absolutely freaking out because this wolf spirit is high enough power wise to challenge dragons. And so when he feeds them, he said that the food was so good and compliments him for it and says, in return, I will basically, he bonds them together. He makes a contract with him. And so for feeding him, he basically becomes his protector.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just kind of the adventures from there. And so far, it's been really cool. I've enjoyed. They go into the food a little bit, not like overly detailed, but there is at least some explanation of what he's making or what type of food he's making or what ingredients he's using or stuff like that. And yeah, he's utilizing his ability more in a merchant standpoint because when he got to the next kingdom from the other party, they told him that he could become a merchant and an adventurer. So he became both. But the merchant thing he's using, he took he bought salt and pepper from our world and then transferred them into little sacks. And he sold them when he bought them off of for us, it was like copper coins that he used. He sold them for gold coins, like a lot of gold coins. So he made bank off of that because that's not something they have in the world he's in now. Like having salt and pepper is like high commodity items where like kings and queens would use.
Yeah.
And he got it for copper coins, so he sold it for gold coins. Plus, the wolf has been kind, and he told him that if he's going to feed him, because he eats a lot, he said if he's going to feed him, the wolf has to do hunting. Wolf had no problem with that. Wolf was like, I'll hunt, that's fine. And so he hunts major game, like B tier, C tier monster kind of situation going on. And he looked at him and goes, I can't, like, he gives him like huge monster kills and stuff like that. He's like, I can't butcher that. And then one of the adventure people that he's with at the time goes, well, you could take it to an adventurers guild and they'll they'll butcher it for you, and then you could sell them the parts that you don't need, like, as long as you're keeping the meat, everything else could be sold to the adventurers guild. And he's like, looks at the wolf and goes, you okay with that? He's like, I have no care as long as you give me meat. He's like, all right, cool. So he gave him so much that literally he got like this giant sack of coins. I don't even know how many it was. I think it was like 100 or 200 gold coins because of how many parts that he got from all the monster kills that he gave to him for the meat. And then he took all the meat with him as well. So he is right now very well off. And I guess is just kind of just living his life. So I was like, this is kind of cool. I kind of like it. They didn't make him overly powered. Essentially,
Yeah.
he's like a shaman, essentially, being able to buff people's stats or whatever. So, he's good in a party, not really good by himself, but he's still doing amazing. So,
Cool, cool, cool.
yeah, I'm like, wasn't sure where this was gonna go, but I'm glad for it, and I'm here for the ride. So,
That sounds interesting. Um. Well, yeah, that was the last show we had.
woohoo!
We went ahead and pulled that thorn out ahead of time. We can end on a good note.
Yes, I'm glad then.
Yeah. That was a number of shows
Quite a number, yes.
that we did today. We will be back in about a month for five. Wait.
Upcoming next season.
Wow, upcoming again. Yes. Oh well.
Because we skipped our final thoughts, so this was the
Yeah.
last for the last season. So yeah,
I think we already took a sneak peek for summer, so
yeah, I think we did.
for spring. So yeah. All right. Yeah, that's it for the show today. As always, DK and Shade, TacoYaki Anime. Thank y'all for watching. Thanks for hanging out in chat. Thanks for supporting the channel in any way that you do. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.